had some time to sleep.
The Appropriations Committee will come to order for the purpose of possible executive session. Madam Council, I think our plan is to go through the first 10 bills to begin with and would request a staff briefing on the amendments for agenda items 1 through 10.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item that has an amendment is number 1, Substitute House Bill 1174.
Good morning.
Yvonne Walker. House Bill 1174 updates various statutory provisions relating to the court interpreter program. The court interpreters are commonly used to provide language interpretation in criminal and civil proceedings, and AOC, the Administrative Office of the Court, actually administers the program. In some situations, the cost of interpreters are borne by the governmental entities, and in other situations, the cost is borne by the non-English speaking person, unless they are indigent. The current bill includes a provision that states that a person with limited English proficiency is not responsible for the cost of an interpreter in all legal proceedings, and it also addresses court-mandated classes. The amendment, WAV 438 by Representative Peterson, eliminates 2 new provisions that were added in the bill. The first provision that stated that a person participating in a court-mandated class is not responsible for the cost of an interpreter, that has been eliminated. And also the provision that states that court-mandated classes do not require the use of a credential interpreter, and where court-mandated classes are provided by a court-mandated contracted provider, the court may require that provider to bear the cost of the interpreter services. Representative Peterson's amendment eliminates all fiscal impacts as it relates to the bill, so essentially the bill would have a 0 cost.
Thank you.
The next item with amendments is item number 2, 1218.
Good morning.
Good morning. Edie Adams for the record. House Bill 1218 addresses competency evaluation and restoration services for criminal defendants who are found not competent to stand trial. There is a proposed second sub in the EBB, as well as 2 amendments to the proposed second sub. The committee was briefed on the proposed second sub during the hearing on the bill, but as a quick reminder, it makes a number of changes related to competency services, including new procedural requirements for competency restoration for defendants charged with misdemeanors and certain Class C felonies, and processes for transferring persons to outpatient competency restoration programs. It also requires DSHS to establish a growth cap program to manage inpatient competency orders, under which cities and counties will be assessed penalties for inpatient competency referrals over a baseline cap set for each city and county.
Emily Stevens, staff of the committee. As a reminder, the proposed second substitute briefed before the committee had about $1,043,000 in costs in the 25-27 biennium and $1,164,000 in costs in the 27-29 biennium, all from general fund state.
Thank you.
Great. The first amendment to the proposed second substitute is Item 160 by Representative Caldier. This amendment strikes all provisions of the bill related to requiring DSHS to establish and implement a growth cap program, including provisions that establish penalties on cities and counties that exceed their baseline cap, that require deposit of those penalties into the new Behavioral Health Diversion Fund, and that allow for appropriations from the fund for cities and counties that meet certain reductions in inpatient competency referrals.
And Item 160 would remove most of the fiscal impact from the bill, which came primarily from the growth cap program. Some indeterminate costs from the fiscal note would remain, such as the potential increase in forensic navigator workload due to individuals on personal recognizance being ordered into outpatient competency restoration. And Step 061 is a standard null and void clause.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Thank you.
The next item is item number 3, House Bill 1271. That has 1 amendment, which is the standard null and void. And then the next item is Substitute House Bill 1273. 3 was the one before that was 1271. This is 1273.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. So substitute House Bill 1273, as a reminder, intends to increase CTE dual credit participation and credential attainment through pilot program grants awarded by the State Board of Community and Technical Colleges. There's two amendments. Henry 115, offered by Representative Macri, would reduce the pilot sites from 3 to 1, and if funded at the same level in the 23-25 biennium, reduces the fiscal impact from $900,000 per year to $300,000 per year for only 2 years. The substitute House bill included a study to replace the statewide enrollment reporting system, which was removed in the amendment. State Board of Community and Technical Colleges estimated $100,000 for the study, and the final report date is moved up since there's only 2 years of funding. So the total cost of the bill with the amendment would be $350,000 per fiscal year for 26 and 27, with a 4-year NGFO estimate of $700,000, compared to the substitute bill, which had a $3.4 million NGFO 4-year impact. The next amendment, Henry 114, offered by Representative Ormsby, is a standard null and void.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much.
The next item is item number 5, substitute House Bill 1285.
Good morning.
Good morning. For the record, Ethan Moreno, staff at the House Education Committee, speaking to substitute House Bill 1285, which relates to financial education instruction requirements for graduation. There are 2 amendments in the books. The first amendment is MOET 388, and it removes provisions requiring school districts, charter schools, and state tribal education compact schools to provide the State Board of Education any financial education public-private partnership with specific information, including financial education course listings and a description of what the school districts or school would need to meet the proposed financial education graduation requirements. It also makes corresponding changes, including removing provisions directing the FEP to analyze information received from school districts and schools, and also removing provisions authorizing the FEP to make recommendations for school district and school resources in accordance with information received from the school districts and public schools.
Jordan Clark, staff to this committee. This would remove the one-time $1.1 million that school districts had estimated to gather that data, and it may also decrease the FEP cost a bit since there would be no data for them to analyze. And then Clark 289 is a standard null and void.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you.
The next item is item number 6, House Bill 1293.
Thank you, members of the committee. My name is Srinandan Ramachandran, and I'm an intern at the Office of Program Research assigned to the NV Committee. HB 1293 relates to littering. As a reminder, the following bill does 2 things. First, it raises the penalty for littering to a Class 2 civil infraction with a base penalty of $125 assessed separately from the existing $93 base penalty for dropped or thrown materials onto state highways. Second, it directs the Department of Ecology to convene a task force composed of representatives from specified state agencies and associations to provide and report policy recommendations to appropriate committees of the legislature, with a status update due by January 15, 2026, and final recommendations due by November 15, 2026. The goal of these policy recommendations is to ensure a net decrease in litter. There is one amendment in the EBB, RAMA 007 by Representative Fitzgibbon. The amendment removes the requirement that the Department of Ecology convene a littering solutions task force. I will now pass it off to my fiscal counterpart.
Thank you.
And so that would remove the costs of the task force, which were $130,000 from the waste reduction and litter control account and $50,000 from general fund state one time.
Thank you both very much. Are there any questions? Thank you.
The next item is item number 7, substitute House Bill 1303.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Jake Blipson, staff of the Environment and Energy Committee. Substitute House Bill 1303 adds environmental justice as an element of the environment and component of the State Environmental Policy Act. There are 2 amendments in the EBB. There is one by Representative Dolio that specifies that instead of the Department of Ecology identifying standardized mitigation to address environmental justice impacts, they would identify mitigation guidance. The second amendment is by Representative Dye, and it would require local governments that are lead agencies under SEPA in the first full calendar year after ecology's rules are adopted to report to the Department of Commerce certain information about their analysis of environmental justice under SEPA, and then Department of Commerce 3 months later would submit a report summarizing all of the experience of local governments implementing the environmental justice element.
And so on that First Amendment 345, I would expect that to reduce costs for ecology and for lead agencies. On the Second Amendment 347, that would probably have some small costs to local governments and Department of Commerce. And there also is a standard null and void on this bill as well, John D. 368.
Thank you. Any questions for our analysts? Thank you very much.
The next item with amendments is item number 9, House Bill 1338.
House Bill 1338 increases the maintenance supplies and operating costs per pupil amount provided to districts. I briefed these amendments yesterday, and the fiscal impact hasn't changed since then. The only change is that MAC 366 was withdrawn. Happy to take questions about the amendments.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you, James.
The next item is House Bill 1357, number 10.
General Clark, again, staff to this committee. As a reminder, House Bill 1357 concerns special education funding and support for inclusionary practices. At a high level, the underlying House bill did 3 things. It increased the current special ed multipliers from 1.12 and 1.06 to 1.18 and 1.09. It increased the multiplier for the ESIP program from 1.15 to match the current preschool multiplier, which is 1.2. And it establishes grant programs for up to 25 pilot schools to establish school-wide centers of excellence for inclusionary practices. That's subject to appropriations. In total, the House bill was estimated at the time to cost around $395 million over the 4-year outlook. There are 3 amendments in the EBB for this bill. Clark 290, offered by Representative Stonier, makes 6 changes. First, it directs OSPI to engage in statewide activities to support special ed students, and it allows OSPI to reserve up to 0.005% of excess cost allocations to use for these activities. There are review and reporting requirements for OSPI tied to these activities as well. There will be no fiscal impact for this change, as it simply redirects a portion of special ed allocations for OSPI to do these activities. Second, it decreases the number of inclusionary practice pilot schools in the underlying bill from 25 to 20 schools. This will reduce costs for that section by about $6.5 million over the 4-year outlook. Third, it requires OSPI to distribute safety net awards quarterly rather than annually if the awards meet the following criteria. First, the awards has to be for a high-cost student receiving special ed services from an approved non-public agency outside the state. The student receiving the safety net award in the previous year and their placement has to have not changed since then, and all other safety net award eligibility criteria requirements must be met. This will increase costs by about $6.2 million one time in fiscal year 26, with the fund sort of shifting from future fiscal years to that current one. Fourth, it also requires OSPI to distribute safety net awards quarterly again to districts with fewer than 2,000 students, and that will again increase costs one time by $5.6 million. Fifth, and subject to appropriations, it requires OSPI to provide grants to support inclusive teaching practices and student behavior management practices for 6 demonstration sites ready to exhibit adopted best practices and 16 pilot sites committed to adopting best practices, as well as funding for best practices training for those pilot sites. A report on these sites is also due to the legislature. Again, this is subject to appropriations, but it would cost about $4 million one time during the 25-27 biennium for those sites. And finally, the amendment changes the allocation and cost accounting methodology for special education in 3 ways. First, it shifts 25% of the BEA amount for special ed students to the school district special ed program for expenditure instead of a percentage based on the least restrictive environment. Second, if a district's special education expenditures exceed state funding provided by excess cost formulas, the special ed safety net, and redirected general apportionment revenue, the remaining portion of the BEA amount for special ed students has to be used prior to other funding sources. And third, language specifies that this methodology doesn't prohibit other funding and state allocations from being used for special ed programs. This would not add a new cost to the state, but it would change the way that districts are accounting for their special education costs. In total, the amendment will increase the cost of the bill by about $12 million, and with the new caseload forecast amounts, that will result in a total cost of about $400 million over the 4-year outlook.
Thank you.
The second amendment in the book is Wargacki 154, and that is offered by Representative Callan. The amendment requires OSPI to use information gathered from demonstration projects and provide technical assistance to develop a strategy and timeline for prohibiting isolation of students in pre-kindergarten through grade 5, and it also requires a plan to be reported to the legislature. Based on cost estimates from House Bill 1795, I think this will cost around $50,000 one time. And the last amendment in the book is standard null and void.
Excellent. Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you. The committee will be going at ease for the purpose of caucus, expecting to return by 10 a.m., hopefully sooner. The Republicans will be caucusing in the briefing room and Democrats across the hall in House Hearing Room C. The committee is at ease. The Appropriations Committee will come back to order for the purpose of possible executive session. We will begin with agenda item number 1. Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move substitute House Bill 1174 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that substitute House Bill 1174 be reported out of committee due pass. There is an amendment. Representative Peterson.
Thank you, Chair Ormsby. I move amendment
438.
438, please.
It has been moved and seconded that the amendment Walker 438 be adopted. Discussion. Representative Peterson.
Thank you again, Chair Ormsby. This just removes the fiscal impacts from the bill, but keeps the bill, the policy, important policy intact. Asking for a yes.
Thank you, Representative Peterson. Additional discussion. Representative Burnett.
Thank you, Chair Ormsby. We agree with this amendment and a yes vote.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor of adopting the amendment Walker 438, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move that the adopted amendment be incorporated into second substitute House Bill 1174 and that second substitute House Bill 1174 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that second substitute House Bill 1174 be reported out of committee due pass. Discussion. Representative Peterson.
Thank you, Chair Ormsby. At the heart, House Bill 1174 is really about access to justice. We know that as our communities become more and more diverse, being able to find qualified interpreters in our courts to make sure that everybody has an equality in the eyes of the court is critical. And this bill takes some steps to make sure that we are doing that. Look forward to continue this work in the future, but for now we're making an important first step. Asking for a yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Peterson. Additional discussion. Representative Burnett.
Thank you, Chair Ormsby. You're likely to see some no's and some soft no's here. No doubt that we agree. And the legal system can be confusing, especially when people are under stress. And so making sure that they understand it in their language that they speak is the utmost important. We agree on that. Just some concerns on potential incomplete, maybe funding from AOC for noncompliance, but we think that this might be able to be worked out further down the road. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Burnett. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Glatz, will you please call the roll?
Ormsby.
Ormsby, aye.
Ormsby votes aye. Gregerson.
Aye.
Gregerson votes aye. Macri.
Aye.
Macri votes aye. Couture.
Do not pass.
Couture votes nay, do not pass. Connors. Connors votes nay without recommendation. Penner. Penner votes nay, do not pass. Schmick.
Do not pass.
Schmick votes nay, do not pass. Berg.
Votes aye.
Berg votes aye. Berquist.
Representative Berquist votes aye.
Berquist votes aye. Burnett. Burnett votes nay without recommendation. Caldier. Caldier votes nay without recommendation. Callan.
Aye.
Callan votes aye. Corey.
Do not pass.
Corey votes nay, do not pass. Cortez. Cortez votes aye. Dolio. Dolio votes aye. Dye. Dye votes nay, do not pass. Fitzgibbon.
Aye.
Fitzgibbon votes aye. Keaton.
Keaton votes nay, do not pass.
Keaton votes nay, do not pass. Levitt. Levitt votes aye. Lekanoff.
Excused.
Lekanoff is excused. Manjares.
No, do not pass.
Manjares votes nay, do not pass. Marshall.
Do not pass.
Marshall votes nay, do not pass. Peterson. Aye. Peterson votes aye. Paulette.
Paulette, aye.
Paulette votes aye. Rude. Rude votes nay, do not pass. Ryu.
Ryu votes aye.
Ryu votes aye. Springer. Springer votes aye. Stonier.
Aye.
Stonier votes aye. Street. Street votes aye. Ty. Ty votes aye. Theringer. Aye. Theringer votes aye.
Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 18 ayes, 12 nays, and 1 excused.
By your vote, second substitute House Bill 1174 is reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation. 1218, Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move the proposed second substitute House Bill 1218, also H-1686.1, be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It has been moved and seconded that substitute House Bill 1218, H-1686.1 be reported out due pass. There are amendments. Representative Caldier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment Adam 160.
It is moved and seconded the Amendment Adams 160 be adopted. Representative Caldier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This removes the cap. We should be helping people based off of their needs and not have a cap on there. And we should also not be penalizing the counties that are already struggling to stay afloat during these challenging times. So I urge adoption of the amendment.
Thank you, Representative Caldier. Further discussion? Representative Theringer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Asking for a no vote. The underlying bill is an attempt to help us manage the competency evaluations and restoration services, and we're trying to do that at the local level. And so we're trying to establish a framework that incentivizes folks to kind of deal with this in their communities. I think in the end, we probably will be looking at removing these fines and penalties in the cap, but at this point, as this bill moves along, I'm asking for a no vote.
Thank you, Representative Theringer. Is there any further discussion? Will all members wishing to adopt the amendment Adams 160 please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
No.
The noes appear to have it. The amendment is not adopted. There is an additional amendment. Representative Gregerson.
Thank you. I move step 061.
It has been moved and seconded that the amendment Stevens 061 be adopted as standard null and void. All members wishing to adopt the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move that the adopted amendment be incorporated into proposed second substitute House Bill 1218, and that second substitute House Bill 1218 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It has been moved and seconded that second substitute House Bill 1218 be reported out of committee due pass. Discussion. Representative Macri.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Asking for support of this bill. You know, since the True Blood federal court case and the settlement agreements related to that, we've done a tremendous amount of work to ensure that people with serious behavioral health conditions who are arrested, jailed, and sent for competency restoration, that we have better options for them. We've created a number of programs over the last several years, including forensic navigators, outpatient competency restoration, and diversion programs, among other things. This bill builds on all of that, and as Representative Theringer says, really is designed to be a kind of carrot and a stick to engage our local governments and incentivizing and holding accountable opportunities to move people out of the criminal legal system and into more appropriate diversion and behavioral health care and support programs. And this bill will take us a long way down the road in making sure that there's more appropriate services for folks. So asking for support.
Thank you, Representative Macri. Additional discussion. Representative Schmick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm going to be asking for a no vote for a couple reasons. I understand what we're trying to do and trying to establish, but to hold cities and counties, especially when you get out in the rural areas, for something that doesn't exist, or even a pathway to get to existence. There's a lot of work to be done to get workforce, to get these programs in place. And I really struggle with the caps and fines that could be levied if this isn't accomplished. And so I hope we can get there. But today, what we're seeing right now, I just can't go there. And so I'm going to be asking for a no vote.
Thank you, Representative Schmick. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Glatz, will you please call the roll?
Ormsby.
Ormsby, aye.
Ormsby votes aye. Gregerson.
Aye.
Gregerson votes aye. Macri.
Aye.
Macri votes aye. Couture.
Not pass.
Couture votes nay, do not pass. Connors. Connors votes nay, do not pass. Penner. Penner votes nay, do not pass. Schmick.
Do not pass.
Schmick votes nay, do not pass. Berg.
Aye.
Berg votes aye. Berquist.
Representative Berquist votes aye.
Berquist votes aye. Burnett. Burnett votes nay, do not pass. Caldier. Caldier votes nay, do not pass. Callan.
Aye.
Callan votes aye. Corey.
Do not pass.
Corey votes nay, do not pass. Cortez. Cortez votes aye. Dolio. Dolio votes aye. Dye. Dye votes nay, do not pass. Fitzgibbon.
Aye.
Fitzgibbon votes aye. Keaton.
Keaton votes nay, do not pass.
Keaton votes nay, do not pass. Levitt. Levitt votes nay without recommendation. Lekanoff.
Excused.
Lekanoff is excused. Manjares.
Nay, do not pass.
Manjares votes nay, do not pass. Marshall.
Nay, do not pass.
Marshall votes nay, do not pass. Peterson. Peterson votes aye. Paulette. Paulette votes aye. Rude. Rude votes nay, do not pass. Ryu.
Ryu votes aye.
Ryu votes aye. Springer.
Aye.
Springer votes aye. Stonier. Stonier votes aye. Street. Street votes aye. Ty. Ty votes aye. Theringer. Theringer votes aye.
Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 17 ayes, 13 nays, and 1 excused.
By your vote, second substitute House Bill 1218 is reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation. We're on agenda item 3, 1271. Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move that House Bill 1273 be reported out of committee, substitute House Bill 1273 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
I think we might be on
1271, right?
Yes.
Did you? Okay, yeah.
1271.
Excuse me. I move that House Bill 1271 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It is moved and seconded that House Bill 1271 be reported out of committee due pass. There is an amendment.
I move Jeffrey 015.
It's been moved and seconded that Jeffrey 015 be adopted as standard null and void. All members wishing to adopt the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Vice Chair Gregerson.
Yeah, I move that the adopted amendment be incorporated into substitute House Bill 1271 and that substitute House Bill 1271 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It has been moved and seconded that substitute House Bill 1271 be reported out of committee due pass. Discussion. Representative Ryu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In a wildfire situation, we have the chief of the Washington State Patrol able to respond. And part of the response is that we are prepared, but also that we are pre-positioning firefighting resources. And so with this bill, we will hopefully reduce the size of wildfires and save a lot of money, as well as, of course, a lot of heartaches for people who would be suffering. So please vote yes.
Thank you, Representative Ryu. Further discussion. Representative Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm speaking in support of this, what I see as a good bill by Representative Nance. This is a critical step towards being proactive rather than reactive in emergency responses. This would improve preparedness and protect our communities before disasters escalate. By addressing emergencies early, we have the potential to prevent large-scale disasters that would be far more costly to our taxpayers. While there are some components that I do think need some refinement, I appreciate the effort to enhance public safety and look forward to continued discussions as this bill moves forward. So I'm urging a yes vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Marshall. Are there any further comments? Mr. Glatz, we will try an oral roll call. Will all members wishing to report substitute House Bill 1271 from committee with the due pass recommendation, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. With Representative Lekanoff excused. Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 30 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 excused.
By your vote, substitute House Bill 1271 is reported from committee with a due pass recommendation. 1273. Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move substitute House Bill 1273 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It has been moved and seconded that substitute House Bill 1273 be reported out of committee due pass. There are amendments. Representative Macri.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment Henry 115.
It's been moved and seconded that the Amendment Henry 115 be adopted. Discussion. Representative Macri.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In light of our budget situation, this bill ensures that we continue the current dual credit program pilot that we have currently and continue that for the next 2 years, but puts a pause on any growth in the program. So asking for support of this amendment.
Thank you, Representative Macri. Additional discussion. Representative Keaton.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I concur. It trims the fat and also moves up the date of the report 2 years to hold better accountability. Vote yes.
Thank you, Representative Keaton. Is there any further discussion? All members wishing to adopt the amendment Henry 115, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. There is one additional amendment. Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move Henry 114.
It has been moved and seconded that the amendment Henry 114 be adopted, standard null and void. All members wishing to adopt the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move that the adopted amendments be incorporated into second substitute House Bill 1273 and that second substitute House Bill 1273 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It has been moved and seconded. The second substitute House Bill 1273 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation. Discussion. Representative Paulette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have thousands of students in the state of Washington who are in career and technical education programs, high school programs, and skill centers with the goal of obtaining credit for their post-secondary degrees and workforce certifications. In community and technical colleges, we really want to make sure that there are no barriers to getting that credit. The prime sponsor, Chair David Paul, has been dedicated to breaking down those barriers, and this is part of that effort. It's really important that at least we keep the pilot program going and look to expand it in the future so that students get that credit. That encourages them to get through workforce certifications and degrees as quickly as possible and into the workforce. So I ask for your support.
Thank you, Representative Paulette. Additional discussion. Representative Keaton.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a good bill. We've allowed too many distractions to come into our public school system, and one of the things that a career pathway does is gives kids hope. There's too many kids that don't have hope. Being able to put them on a pathway early, as soon as you can, and then give them a focus and get dual credit so they can be more successful and have a path to that success. Vote yes.
Thank you, Representative Keaton. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Glatz, we will try an oral roll call. Will all members wishing to report second substitute House Bill 1273 from committee with a due pass recommendation, please signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. With Representatives Lekanoff and Schmick excused. Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 29 ayes, 0 nays, and 2 excused.
By your vote, second substitute House Bill 1273 is reported from committee with a due pass recommendation. 1285, Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move that substitute House Bill 1285 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It has been moved and seconded that substitute House Bill 1285 be reported out of committee due pass. There are amendments. Representative Rude.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move adoption of Amendment 388.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the amendment Moreno 388. Discussion. Representative Rude.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment removes some reporting that was driving just over $1 million in the fiscal note, so that is eliminated. Total cost is now under $500,000 for the bill, so asking for your support.
Thank you, Representative Rude. Additional discussion. Representative Stonier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with Representative Rude's amendment. After talking with folks at FEP, we also are confident that a good amount of this information that would have benefited the underlying bill will still be collected and still find use for the legislature down the road. So please vote yes.
Thank you, Representative Stonier. Are there any additional comments? All members wishing to adopt the amendment Moreno 388 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. There is one other amendment. Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move Clark 289.
It's been moved and seconded that the amendment Clark 289 be adopted, standard null and void. All members wishing to adopt the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move that the adopted amendments be incorporated into second substitute House Bill 1285, and that second substitute House Bill 1285 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
Is moved and seconded that second substitute House Bill 1285 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation. Discussion. Representative Rood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be brief since we just heard this in public hearing yesterday. This bill requires financial education in all school districts as a graduation requirement. I appreciate all the work that's been done by other members, including on this committee, and we've done this in a way that incorporates it into existing work that the State Board of Education is doing, so I'm hopeful that this is the year that we get across the finish line.
Thank you, Representative Rood. Additional discussion, Representative Stonier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am not usually one to support adding graduation requirements to a school system that already is required to teach 21 years of standards in an 18 or 19 or in a school experience of 12, maybe 13 years. And so this has been a real challenge. However, as I've said a number of times, if we could go back in time and look at the graduation requirements that were on the books originally, financial education absolutely should have been one of them. And so this, the work of Representative Rood and others on this issue will hopefully this session put us in a place where students have access to key information and skills that will benefit them down the road. And I will just add that the people we hear from the most about this requirement being necessary are the very students in our classrooms now. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Stonier. Are there any additional remarks? Mr. Glatz, we're going to try an oral roll call. Will all members wishing to report second substitute House Bill 1285 from committee with a due pass recommendation, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. With Representatives Schmick and Lekanoff excused. Mr. Glatz, will you please, does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 29 ayes, 0 nays, and 2 excused.
By your vote, second substitute House Bill 1285 is reported from committee with a due pass recommendation. 1293, Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move that House Bill 1293 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It has been moved and seconded that House Bill 1293 be reported out of committee due pass. There are amendments. Representative Fitzgibbon.
Mr. Chair, I move the adoption of Amendment Rama 007.
It has been moved and seconded that the amendment Ramachandran be adopted. Discussion. Representative Fitzgibbon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment removes the task force from the underlying bill. It's always great to have task forces as places to talk about public issues of concern to our constituents, but this year we are not doing very many of those, and we need to bring down the cost of the bill. So I ask for your support.
Thank you, Representative Fitzgibbon. Additional discussion. Representative Dye.
Thank you, Chair Ormsby. I almost said Chair Fitzgibbon. But so, you know, this is a disappointing attempt at savings. The task force was funded largely through the litter tax with a $50,000 general fund appropriation. And given the scope and scale of the litter that's on the road and the lack of impetus to find solutions to that, I think this is appropriately funded, and especially given that the litter tax is something specifically designed to try and help us really address this significant problem in Washington State. And so I would urge that we put this amendment down. So please vote no.
Thank you, Representative Dye. Are there any other comments? Will all members wishing to adopt the amendment Ramachandran 007 please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The amendment is adopted. Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move that the adopted amendment be incorporated into substitute House Bill 1293, and that substitute House Bill 1293 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It has been moved and seconded that substitute House Bill 1293 be reported out of committee due pass. Discussion. Representative Dye.
Thank you, Chair Ormsby. Washington State has done a number of studies using the litter tax funding to evaluate how much litter is on our roadways. Those studies were suspended at the end of the 90s, and then recently a new litter study was done in 2022. And that study shows that litter has not improved in Washington State, that signage and public education is not nearly enough, and clearly there's no nexus between recycling and the amount of litter on our roadways. Washington roadways have 42% more pieces of litter per mile than the national average in 2023. Ecology funded that litter pickup program, but they only collected 5.64 million pounds of litter and cleaned 20,865 miles of state roadways. But this is only a fraction of the litter that accumulates. Despite the significant investments and ongoing efforts each year on litter pickup, the litter road tax is used to incentivize volunteer efforts and doesn't commit significant amounts of the litter tax money towards actual state-funded pickup. Instead, they use it to encourage people to recycle and very little effort to actually do the pickup of the litter. And so right now you're looking at about a quarter of the estimated 38 million pounds of litter on our roadways and public recreation areas annually are even being considered for pickup. And the litter, if after the pickup occurs, our roadways quickly become littered again. So we are looking at somewhere north of 30 million pounds of litter accumulating on an annual basis. And that's why you see such a tragic amount of litter, and especially on I-5. The litter is literally embarrassing. When you cross the national lines from Canada into the United States, what do you see but gross litter on the I-5 corridor? When you go from Portland into Washington, welcome to the Evergreen State, and you see incredible amounts of litter. I noted how many plastic water bottles were in the median between the north and south parts of the highway. And you're thinking about planning for the FIFA World Cup, and it's an embarrassment that the I-5 corridor, and especially from the Canadian border to the Seattle stadiums where these events are going to be held, literally the Super Bowl 6 times, and we have this much litter. We need to get serious. I'm very disappointed about removing the task force. You can go to other states and you can see successful litter programs. I just returned from Phoenix and Scottsdale, and there wasn't even a single potato chip bag anywhere in that desert. The roadways were immaculate. They have a very successful public-private partnership that works. We need to evaluate what works across this nation and adopt it and double down a dirty dog dare that we do better than they do. And so I urge you to pass this this policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Dye. Additional discussion, Representative Dolio.
Thank you, Chair Ormsby. I am asking for a yes on this. I certainly agree with much of Representative Dye's concern about the litter in this state and feel like this is a step in the right direction of dealing with that. We will be mixed on this side due to some concerns about the fair application of the penalties imposed on folks. And so but in general, we want to address this issue, and I do believe that certainly the plastic bottles in the middle of the freeway would be alleviated and solved if we were able to move forward with a recycling bottle bill. So that would go away quickly. Urging a yes on this.
Thank you, Representative Dolio. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Glatz, will you please call the roll?
Ormsby?
Ormsby, aye.
Ormsby votes aye. Gregerson?
No, do not pass.
Gregerson votes nay, do not pass. Macri?
Do not pass.
Macri votes nay, do not pass. Couture?
Aye.
Couture votes aye. Connors?
Aye.
Connors votes aye. Penner? Penner votes aye. Schmick?
Excused.
Schmick is excused. Berg?
Votes aye.
Berg votes aye. Bergquist?
Representative Bergquist votes no.
Bergquist votes nay without recommendation. Burnett? Burnett votes aye. Caldier?
Aye.
Caldier votes aye. Callan?
Callan votes aye.
Callan votes aye. Corey?
Corey votes aye.
Corey votes aye. Cortez?
Cortez votes aye.
Cortez votes aye. Dolio?
Aye.
Dolio votes aye. Dye?
Aye.
Dye votes aye. Fitzgibbon?
Aye.
Fitzgibbon votes aye. Keaton?
Keaton votes aye.
Keaton votes aye. Levitt?
Levitt votes aye.
Levitt votes aye. Lukanov?
Excused.
Lukanov is excused. Manjares?
Aye.
Manjares votes aye. Marshall?
Aye.
Marshall votes aye. Peterson? No, do not pass. Peterson votes nay, do not pass. Paulette?
Paulette, aye.
Paulette votes aye. Rude?
Aye.
Rude votes aye. Ryu?
Ryu votes aye.
Ryu votes aye. Springer?
Excused.
Springer is excused. Stonier?
Aye.
Stonier votes aye. Street? Street votes nay without recommendation. Ty?
No without recommendation.
Ty votes nay without recommendation. Derringer?
Aye.
Derringer votes aye.
Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 22 ayes, 6 nays, and 3 excused.
By your votes, substitute House Bill 1293 is reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation. 1303, Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move that substitute House Bill 1303 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It has been moved and seconded that substitute House Bill 1303 be reported out of committee due pass. There are amendments. Representative Dolio.
Thank you, Chair Ormsby. I move the amendment.
The amendment Lipson 345 has been moved and seconded. Representative Dolio.
Yes, this change is responsive to a request from the Department of Ecology, certainly a technical amendment changing standard mitigation to mitigation guidance, better aligns with the concept of providing best practices rather than a generalized plug-and-play mitigation scheme. This balances certainty with flexibility, recommending a yes vote.
Thank you, Representative Dolio. Additional discussion, Representative Dye.
Thank you, Chair Ormsby. And we agree that this reduces some of the costly load on our local governments. Please vote yes.
Thank you, Representative Dye. Is there any further discussion? All members wishing to adopt the amendment Lipson 345 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. There are additional amendments. Representative Dye.
Thank you, Chair Ormsby. The purpose of this amendment is to really...
Move adoption of the amendment.
Oh, I move the
Representative Dye?
adoption of LIPS 347.
It has been moved and seconded that the amendment Lipson 347 be adopted. Representative Dye.
Thank you, Chair Ormsby, for making that correction as well. This amendment seeks to really evaluate what the costs will be of adopting mitigation guidance elements and the SEPA elements onto this, the environmental justice SEPA elements onto projects, and how much it really is going to cost our local governments for these projects. And I think it's very important me to understand how much this will add to the cost of projects, and that it will add to our local governments, which would in certain circumstances be the lead agencies under the SEPA agency review. We want to know what the incremental costs will be, and even though it will be mitigation guidance, according to the amendment we just adopted, I think that we need to know that that guidance will result in some mitigation, and I hope this amendment will help daylight those costs ongoing so that we can make good policy decisions as we move forward with this policy. And I urge a yes vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Dye. Additional discussion, Representative Dolio.
Yes, thank you, Chair Ormsby. While we certainly appreciate the need to look at costs, we are in a cost-cutting mode, and this would add costs to the bill, and so we are recommending a no.
Is there any further discussion? Will all members wishing to adopt the amendment Lipson 347 please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The noes appear to have it. The amendment is not adopted. There is one final amendment. Vice Chair Gregerson?
I move Jones 368.
It's been moved and seconded that the amendment Jones 368 be adopted as standard null and void. All members wishing to adopt the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Vice Chair Gregerson?
Thank you. I move that the adopted amendments be incorporated into Second Substitute House Bill 1303 and that Second Substitute House Bill 1303 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It has been moved and seconded that Second Substitute House Bill 1303 be reported out of committee due pass. Discussion. Representative Dolio?
Thank you, Chair Ormsby. Asking for a yes on this bill today. This is a bill, it's a second go-around, a repeat from last year, and there was a significant amount of work done in the interim with local governments, project applicants, business builders, agencies, labor, and more. So the bill looks quite a bit different than it did last time and takes a lot of stakeholder work into account. As with most bills, there's still ongoing conversations and changes under consideration, but this is a bill that is so important as we continue to build in Washington, which is a good thing. It keeps our economy strong. But while we're doing that, we should do so with consideration for the long-term impacts on people as well as the environment. CURB is a first step in creating a more just system as we continue to build in Washington State, so recommending a yes.
Thank you, Representative Dolio. Additional discussion. Representative Dye?
Thank you, Chair Ormsby. This bill is about the health disparities based on a metric of environmental justice and environmental racism. Health disparities that are being evaluated and studied by the HEAL Act and to try and mitigate. The metric on this environmental justice is air quality. Later in the list of these bills, you'll see a bill that will entirely ignore environmental justice, the HEAL map that shows where the most disparately impacted communities are. But this is about health disparities based on air quality evaluated by particulate matter, by wildfire smoke, by carbon dioxide emissions. So when you look at what the bill does, it looks at building projects that are important, infrastructure projects that will occur across our state, housing, all of the things that we need to do. And it puts a layer of SEPA analysis based on health disparities for communities that are disparately impacted by climate change. And it's a very expensive, unfunded mandate for local governments because they must evaluate these elements of the SEPA and then move forward with the project. So it starts as the first filter for any project. It's also an extremely expensive unfunded mandate for state. We look at the fiscal note on this bill and it's indeterminate for the Department of Transportation. And that indeterminate cannot be accurately estimated because we don't know what the number of projects would meet the expanded requirements. And even though it's mitigation guidelines, those guidelines very well will be implemented. It may impact the bill that's further down in our list as well and make those projects unaffordable, the affordable housing. So the Department of Ecology assumes these projects will be undergoing SEPA review. They will vary in complexity, duration, depending on the permits in question, and they may slow projects significantly. I feel sorry for the people across the hall that are working on the transportation budget because there's no way that they can evaluate, should this bill pass, what their transportation budget costs will be. But right now they have a deep and troubling transportation budget to try and pass through this body. For the ecology fiscal note, the ecology estimates that rulemaking would be highly complex and generate substantial public interest and input. The volume Complexity and frequency at which ecology is the lead agency for SEPA review is expected to vary greatly across the agency, and the fiscal note also states that it is indeterminate. But this will assuredly slow projects and will cost more. For communities in Eastern Washington, they will be disparately impacted. We are 8 and 9 on, and 9 and 8 through 10 on the Hill environmental justice map for wildfire smoke for good parts of the year. That wildfire smoke is impacting the health and well-being of our communities. And yet there's no consideration whatsoever for the industrialization of vast tracts of land for wind and solar construction. Do we qualify under the HEAL Act? I don't know, because the wildfire smoke is only seasonal. The question is, will this slow those projects? I would hope that there would at least be some consideration of the social, emotional, and environmental costs of this needless, useless, and reckless energy policy that is impacting our communities in Eastern Washington. And so in that regard, my hope is that we will put this bill down. Please, I would urge a no vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Dye. Madam Council, I am confused at where we are on the agenda for 1303.
So you have adopted or you've considered the amendments and then you're on final passage.
Thank you, Madam Council. Are there any additional comments? Mr. Glatz, will you please call the roll?
Ormsby?
Ormsby, aye.
Ormsby votes aye. Gregerson?
Aye.
Gregerson votes aye. Macri?
Aye.
Macri votes aye. Couture?
Not pass.
Couture votes nay, do not pass. Connors?
Pass.
Connors votes nay, do not pass. Penner? Penner votes nay, do not pass. Schmick?
Do not pass.
Schmick votes nay, do not pass. Berg?
Votes aye.
Berg votes aye. Berquist?
Representative Berquist votes aye.
Berquist votes aye. Burnett? Burnett votes nay, do not pass. Caldeer? Caldeer votes nay, do not pass. Callan?
Aye.
Callan votes aye. Corey?
Do not pass.
Corey votes nay, do not pass. Cortez? Cortez votes aye. Dolio? Dolio votes aye. Dye?
Specific.
Dye votes nay, do not pass. Fitzgibbon? Fitzgibbon votes aye. Keaton?
Keaton votes nay, do not pass.
Keaton votes nay, do not pass. Levitt? Levitt votes nay without recommendation. Lekanoff?
Excused.
Lekanoff is excused. Manjares?
No, do not pass.
Manjares votes nay, do not pass. Marshall?
No, do not pass.
Marshall votes nay, do not pass. Peterson? Aye. Peterson votes aye. Paulette? Paulette votes aye. Rude? Do not pass. Rude votes nay, do not pass. Ryu?
Ryu votes aye.
Ryu votes aye. Springer? Aye. Springer votes aye. Stonier?
Aye.
Stonier votes aye. Street? Street votes aye. Ty? Ty votes aye. Theringer? Aye. Theringer votes aye.
Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 17 ayes, 13 nays, and 1 excused.
By your vote, second substitute House Bill 1303 is reported from committee with a do pass recommendation. 1327, Vice Chair Macri.
I move that House Bill 1327 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that House Bill 1327 be reported out of committee do pass. There are no amendments. Discussion. Representative Schmick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This updates the horse racing statute in a way that I think it does to currently reflect more of what's actually going on in the industry. So as this bill has approached the starting line, and they're off, this bill is winding around down the backstretch, around the final turn. As it approaches coming down the stretch, let's hope that we don't have to rein in our expectations. Let's hope that there is not a photo finish at the finish line so that we can put this bill in the winner's circle and earn that trophy.
Thank you for the story, Representative Schmick. Additional discussion, Representative Peterson.
Thank you, Chair Ormsby. I feel like I should break into a George Jones song right about now, but appreciate the work that Representative Schmick has done on the commission. I was a former representative on the Horse Racing Commission, and this bill, I think, will help the industry and appreciate, I didn't count, but I do appreciate the number of horse racing references. Looking forward to the floor speech, sort of. Thank you. Please vote yes.
Thank you, Representative Peterson. Are there any other comments? Mr. Glass, will you please call the roll?
Ormsby?
Ormsby, no, without recommendation.
Ormsby votes nay without recommendation. Gregerson?
Aye.
Gregerson votes aye. Macri?
Aye.
Macri votes aye. Couture?
Aye.
Couture votes aye. Connors? Aye. Connors votes aye. Penner? Aye. Penner votes aye. Schmick? Aye. Schmick votes aye. Berg?
Votes aye.
Berg votes aye. Berquist?
Representative Berquist votes aye.
Berquist votes aye. Burnett? Burnett votes aye. Caldier?
Aye.
Caldier votes aye. Callan?
Aye.
Callan votes aye. Corey?
Aye.
Corey votes aye. Cortez? Cortez votes aye. Dolio? Aye. Dolio votes aye. Dye? Aye. Dye votes aye. Fitzgibbon?
No, without rec.
Fitzgibbon votes nay without recommendation. Keaton?
Keaton votes aye.
Keaton votes aye. Levitt? Levitt votes nay without recommendation. Lekanoff?
Excused.
Lekanoff is excused. Manjars?
Aye.
Manjars votes aye. Marshall?
Aye.
Marshall votes aye. Peterson?
Aye.
Peterson votes aye. Paulette? Paulette votes aye. Rude?
Aye.
Rude votes aye. Ryu?
Ryu votes aye.
Ryu votes aye. Springer? Aye. Springer votes aye. Stonier?
Aye.
Stonier votes aye. Street? Street votes aye. Ty?
No, without.
Ty votes nay without recommendation. Theringer?
Aye.
Theringer votes aye.
Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 26 ayes, 4 nays, and 1 excused.
By your vote, House Bill 1327 is reported out of committee with a do pass recommendation. 1338, Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move that House Bill 1338 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It has been moved and seconded that House Bill 1338 be reported out of committee do pass. There are amendments. Representative Gregerson.
Thank you. I move Macusson 360.
It's been moved and seconded that the amendment Macusson 360 be reported out, be adopted. Discussion. Representative Gregerson.
Yeah, you've seen a lot of amendments on bills this week to reduce the costs in order for us to really make sure that we have a balanced budget. And that's what this is attempting to do. This has nothing to do with the importance of the work and the importance of the topic and the commitment to this bill. I urge you to pass this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Gregerson. Additional discussion. Representative Couture.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Respectfully asking for a no. I guess I'm a little confused with this amendment, why we would even need a bill. With the amount left over afterwards, we're basically spreading pennies across our school districts when they're struggling right now, especially with some of their operating costs as it relates to liability insurance. But more so, this amendment still doesn't have any safeguards for the money that is given to school districts that many would like to see, urging a no.
Thank you, Representative Couture. Are there any further comments? Seeing none, all those wishing to adopt the amendment Macusson 360, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The ayes appear to have it. The amendment is adopted. Representative Couture.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Please move amendment Macusson 367.
It has been moved and seconded that the amendment Macusson 367 be adopted. Representative Couture.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What this amendment does is it essentially says that as we allocate dollars per category for material supplies and operating costs, that they're actually expended for expenditures in those categories. This is an important safeguard for our tax dollars that we send to schools, but it also allows for certain increases in certain categories. Categories that we hear quite often from schools are definite pain points, such as utilities and liability insurance costs. We've heard from many of our school districts that the rising cost of insurance is crushing their school operating budgets, but it also would allow for facilities maintenance, security dollars, and for skill centers in our small rural schools. I would urge this amendment's adoption. It does cut down significantly the fiscal note from the underlying bill, but still allows for important increases where they're needed the most, especially in times of high inflation. Please vote yes.
Thank you, Representative Couture. Additional discussion, Representative Berg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm going to ask for a no vote on this amendment. I understand the sponsor's intent, but I will say the underlying categories of MSOC are extremely flexible, and picking winners and losers within that is not something that we should be doing at this moment. Schools are facing terrible budget crunches, and limiting the uses of MSOC funds to just certain ones is not the intent of the bill, and is not something I would support. Please vote no.
Thank you, Representative Berg. Are there any additional comments? All members wishing to adopt the amendment Mackison 367, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
No.
The noes appear to have it. The amendment is not adopted. There are additional amendments. Representative Couture.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Please withdraw Mackison 366 due to drafting error.
Thank you. Representative Couture.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Please move Mackison 363.
It has been moved and seconded that the amendment Mackison 363 be adopted. Representative Couture.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment essentially would say that if a school district is allocated dollars for certain MSOC categories, which there are various categories, and they misspend amounts allocated for those categories, that they would have to refund the state into the general fund, urging a yes. This is a critical, accountability tool for when we give our school districts state dollars.
Thank you, Representative Couture. Additional discussion. Representative Berg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I cannot overemphasize enough. Please vote no on this amendment first, but also that our schools do have current accountability measures, and there are measures in place, accounting measures and legislative measures that we've voted on throughout the years that really do make sure that our schools are using the funds as appropriately as possible. I'm also asking for no on this because the language just impugns the motives, frankly, of our districts as if they are misspending funds and there's something we have to go ahead and catch them. I don't believe that. Being a two-time recovering school board director, I can tell you from personal experience there are a lot of safeguards and guardrails around the funding every dollar that is sent to our wonderful districts. Please vote no.
Thank you, Representative Berg.
Follow up.
Additional discussion. Representative Couture.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't believe that it is my side's intention to impugn school districts for misspending. If they're not misspending now, then there should be no problem taking the amendment. It just says that if they do misspend any dollars, that they would have to refund it to the state. So if that is in fact true, that there is no problem, then there should be no problem in accepting this amendment, because then we should all believe that there is no problem at all. Please vote yes.
Thank you, Representative Couture. Are there any additional comments? Seeing none, all those wishing to adopt the amendment Mackison 363, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
No.
The noes appear to have it. The amendment is not adopted. Representative Couture.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Please move Amendment 364.
It has been moved and seconded that the amendment Mackison 364 be adopted. Discussion. Representative Couture.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment does something very critical, but first I just want to talk about what it means to pick winners and losers. With the amendment that we have accepted, we've basically chosen losers for all of our school districts. They will all lose as a result of that amendment. When you try to spread $25 million across every school district in our state, you're basically giving them almost nothing in a time where many of our schools, especially in rural areas, are going to close. They're devastatingly in the red because of high inflationary pressures. But this amendment here would ask school districts to remit unspent or surplus MSOC amounts back to the state. If you receive money for utilities and liability insurance and you do not spend all of that money for that allocated category, what happens right now is we allocate dollars per category, but then the school district can spend those MSOC dollars on anything they want in any one of those various multitudes of MSOC categories. That's not accountability, but if you have surplus MSOC funds in your schools, there are other schools that are struggling, and we need to know that, and so we should be able to take back some of those surplus MSOC dollars back into the general fund, especially when we're in a budget deficit right now, and make sure that the schools that need our help the most are getting the help that they need. Urging a yes.
Thank you, Representative Couture. Additional discussion. Representative Berg.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I'm going to urge a no on this amendment. There, frankly, are not unspent MSOC funds. We give school districts a lot of flexibility in terms of how they can spend money to, frankly, keep the lights on in all the categories there within. This amendment, frankly, I just don't think it's necessarily, it's not helpful in this moment, and I think the implications are that there's funding that school districts are either not using or not understanding how to use, and I'm urging a no.
Thank you, Representative Berg. Are there any additional comments? Seeing none, will all members wishing to adopt the amendment Maxson 364 please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
No.
The noes appear to have it. The amendment is not adopted. Representative Couture.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Please move Maxson 362.
It has been moved and seconded that the amendment Maxson 362 be adopted. Discussion. Representative Couture.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I know the answer to this one already based on the discussion, but we're going to give it a shot. This amendment basically would ask districts to report quarterly to the OSPI, the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction, about how they spent their money. I know that as a program manager in the private sector, you couldn't do anything without making an expense report and reporting every single penny that was spent. So I think that this is, an updated way to get to some expense reports for our schools so we can have a better idea of what MSOC dollars are being spent in which categories. Urging a yes.
Thank you, Representative Couture. Additional discussion. Representative Tai.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would, as the sponsor of the amendment stated, I would ask for a no vote on this amendment. When I have the opportunity to serve as school board director, I get to visit schools, and not only at the smallest school district, which serve 9 students in the entire school district, to the largest school district like the Seattle School District. Every single dime is being spent on taking care of students and provide services for students. Now, this particular MSOC area is really about keep the light on and ensure that safety is available for all of those who occupy those spaces. I believe that our schools are doing the best that they can, and I'm asking for this amendment not to be adopted.
Thank you, Representative Tai. Are there any additional comments? Representative Marshall? No, not just yet. Okay, thank you. Are there any additional comments? All members wishing to adopt the amendment Maxson 362, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
No.
The noes appear to have it. The amendment is not adopted. There is one final amendment. Representative Gregerson?
I move Maxson 365.
It's been moved and seconded that the amendment Maxson 365 be adopted as a standard null and void. All members wishing to adopt the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
No.
Appears the ayes appear to have it. The amendment is adopted. Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move that the adopted amendments be incorporated into Substitute House Bill 1338, and that Substitute House Bill 1338 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that Substitute House Bill 1338 be reported out of committee due pass. Discussion. Representative Berg.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I'm asking for a yes vote for this particular bill. The thought behind this bill was to increase MSOC to reflect really current costs, and we know that schools, just like our families, are struggling with additional impacts on that budget, that kitchen table budget. Things are going up like utilities and insurance costs, textbook costs, technology, and our schools really do need the help, the support that we give them for these basic educational needs. I'm encouraged by this discussion I heard on both sides of the aisle today, because it sounds like we all care about students and we all care about schools, and we all want to fund our schools really for those basic needs. I want to be really clear. MSOC dollars are very, very transparent and accountable. MSOC funding, for me, again, as a two-time recovering school board director, MSOC money is the stuff that doesn't get you ticker tape parades. It doesn't get you a lot of notice in the press. It's not the stuff that parents go home and say, "God darn it, that insurance bill got paid, and Johnny was able to go to school today." But it's the stuff that's really, really important. And as a former director, I know how important it is. It's the only way we can actually keep the lights on. That said, it's not easy in these challenging budgeting times to have all the things at this exact moment. I know it's going to be a hard vote for a lot of folks up here today. I know we're probably going to be a mixed vote. But I want everybody to know that everyone is working hard to really keep the lights on for students and for districts. I still believe that this bill is a beacon of hope for the basic needs of our students and school districts. Today, the light in that beacon is not as bright as I think any of us would like it to be, but please do not mistake that for a reflection of how we feel about our schools. The dim light is simply a reflection of our current budgeting challenges. And I just want you all to know that the care and commitment that we feel for our schools is there. And we are going to work hard, as we do every day, for those students and for those school districts. So, Mr. Chair, I'm asking you for a yes vote on this bill, this beacon of light. Again, it's not as bright as we want it to be, but it's still a beacon of light for our students and our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Berg. Additional discussion. Representative Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It may come as a shock. I'm going to be urging a no vote today. As a former school board member myself, proud to have served the school board, and somebody who's seen firsthand the challenges our school districts face, I definitely understand the importance of ensuring that our schools have the resources they need. But we all have to actually look at what's going on, and we have to acknowledge that simply increasing funding without accountability is not the solution forward. The McCleary decision in 2012 mandated that we fully fund basic education, and since that time, education spending in our state has skyrocketed to over $19,000 per student per year. Despite this investment, our performance has been on a steady decline. Our teachers are being paid second in the nation for entry level and fourth in the nation average. However, our outcomes paint a starkly different picture with 23rd overall in school performance, 35th in high school graduation rates, and 48th for students pursuing higher education. You know, the intent of this bill is to protect materials, supplies, and operating costs, and ensuring that these resources go directly to the classrooms. However, as we heard in some of the amendment proposals, you know, we've weakened that money that was going to be protected for the MSOC funds. You know, too often the funds that we allocate to the schools and we put into certain buckets are diverted through collective bargaining agreements, And a lot of times they end up going to areas that are not the intended purpose. And while we appropriate to specific categories, there really is no accountability to where the money is spent once it gets to the school districts. You know, schools can and often do shift the funds, you know, leaving essential resources like MSOC underfunded while prioritizing other areas. You know, we fund our schools very, very well in the state of Washington, and I think what we need to do is carve out buckets of money where we actually have accountability for how it's spent and ensure the money is going to where we want it to go so that we can have good student performance for the money that we're spending. You know, we have a self-inflicted budget crisis right now, and increasing spending is not the way to do it. It's accountability and making sure that we really are directing the money to be spent in specific ways to ensure that we have good outcomes for our students. So I'm urging a no vote. Our students deserve better, and I actually look forward to working on ways to better fund our schools with the resources that we're already allocating. So look forward to future work. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Marshall. Additional discussion, Representative Keaton.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I was hoping to support the material supplies operating costs. My district in Puyallup is, over the last 5 years, is down $47.43 million unfunded versus the actual costs for those type of supplies, and over $11 million this last year. The COTUR amendment would have provided a lot of the safe guardrails around the funding to make sure that the money is used properly and in the right areas. That just would have actually helped my district. My district would have been very happy to have those guardrails in place. Now, without having that available, I just can't support this bill.
Thank you, Representative Keaton. Further discussion, Representative Caldier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm really struggling with this bill because, you know, when I first came in, one of the things that I heard from teachers was that they were only allowed, you know, a small couple $100 a year for their classrooms. And I thought, well, heck, I don't think teachers should be having to spend their own personal funds for the classroom. I think that's a bipartisan issue, and I was heavily advocating for the MSOC dollars to be increased, and they actually did. They doubled, and at the time with the McCleary fix, there was accountability because that was something that the Senate Majority Coalition had negotiated. However, the following year, they lost power. And the first thing that happened was that accountability was gutted. And so I went back to the teachers and I said, hey, we got additional funding for MSOC. So you shouldn't have to pay any extra money out of your pocket for your classroom. And you know what they all told me? That it actually didn't go up and that they're still getting the same allotment. And I tried to find out where those dollars went. And I was told that they could spend it on whatever they wanted. And it didn't go to the classroom. And I'm struggling because the bills that we pass, we don't have any consideration with how it affects our cities, our counties, and our local school districts. And one of the biggest issues is like, for example, the Climate Commitment Act. That was a very regressive tax. It increased gas prices upwards to 50 cents a gallon, and it increased our energy costs by 20%. I actually introduced a bill, 1594, that would say that of the climate commitment dollars, we had to make the schools whole. Didn't get a hearing, okay? And our job should be to make those school districts whole. However, there is no accountability in these funds, and I'm afraid that it's not going to go to where it's supposed to go. And so, for those reasons, I can't vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Caldier. Is there any additional discussion? Representative Berg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to jump in because there's a lot of discussion, and I know sometimes these bills go by really quickly, and folks, and some folks might not have even been here last year, but we did, as a part of our operating budget, pass some very specific guardrails and accountability measures around MSOC. I think the good ranking member may have even voted in the affirmative for this particular one. And so it's, just to be clear, it was in the operating budget, Senate Bill 5950, and there's very specific language around guardrails. I think it's in RCW 28A 505. And basically that this money has to be used for very specific purposes of material supplies and operating costs, and that those guardrails are in place. I think those were things that we actually thought about, and I'm happy to say that they are there.
Thank you, Representative Berg. Additional comments? Representative Couture?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Berg, for pointing that out. And, I'll just say that I voted yes for that last session. And I believed that when I voted yes on that it was absolutely categorical. But that was part of the amendments and the underlying discussion that we've had. Is that, yes, the funds were for, in that example, utilities and liability insurance category. But once the school district receives the monies meant for the utilities and liability insurance category, it can then freely spend that money on any other category, including salaries. And that is the accountability that we actually need. If you're sending money, if the state of Washington is sending money, tax dollars, to schools for a specific reason, then you have to be able to expend that money for that reason. That's why we sent it. But right now, and including in the bill before, which is what I'm trying to fix, was trying to fix today, is that we want to make sure that the money we send for a specific purpose is actually expended for that specific purpose. I think that is the kind of accountability for our tax dollars that our constituents want and deserve.
Thank you, Representative Couture. Representative Caldier?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did also want to clarify that that when we're allocating funds, and even if we say it's supposed to be spent on that amount, if there is no teeth in it, meaning that they're going to have to return the funds, or that there is some other accountable measure, for example, not getting future funds or withholding something, there is no accountability in terms of a penalty. So it would be the same as if we created a law and we didn't have any enforcement, which we do all the time. And so therefore the law is not followed. And also I did not vote for that bill. So I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Caldier. Are there any further comments? Seeing none, Mr. Glatz, will you please call the roll?
Ormsby?
Ormsby, aye.
Ormsby votes aye. Gregerson?
Aye.
Gregerson votes aye. Macri?
Aye.
Macri votes aye. Couture?
Do not pass.
Couture votes nay, do not pass. Connors? Connors votes nay, do not pass. Penner? Penner votes nay, do not pass. Schmick? Schmick votes nay, do not pass. Berg?
Aye.
Berg votes aye. Berquist?
Representative Berquist votes no.
Berquist votes nay without recommendation. Burnett? Burnett votes nay, do not pass. Caldier?
Nay without recommendation.
Caldier votes nay without recommendation. Callan?
Pass.
Callan passes. Corey?
Do not pass.
Corey votes nay, do not pass. Cortez? Cortez votes aye. Dolio? Dolio votes aye. Dye? Dye votes nay nay, do not pass. Fitzgibbon?
Aye.
Fitzgibbon votes aye. Keaton?
Keaton votes nay, do not pass.
Keaton votes nay, do not pass. Levitt? Levitt votes aye. Lukanov? Lukanov votes aye. Manjaras?
Do not pass.
Manjaras votes nay, do not pass. Marshall?
Do not pass.
Marshall votes nay, do not pass. Peterson? Peterson votes aye. Paulette?
Nay without recommendation.
Paulette votes nay without recommendation. Rude? Rude votes nay, do not pass. Ryu?
Ryu votes aye.
Ryu votes aye. Springer? Springer votes aye. Stonier? Stonier votes nay without recommendation. Street? Street votes aye. Ty? Ty votes aye. Derringer? Derringer votes aye. Callan?
No without recommendation.
Callan votes nay without recommendation.
Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 15 ayes, 16 nays, and 0 excused.
They wanted to change their vote. Yes. Well, then say it. Put your mic on.
Representative Paulette?
Yes, I'd like to change my vote from nay without recommendation to yes.
Representative Paulette votes aye.
Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
The tally is now 16 ayes, 15 nays, and 0 excused.
By your vote, substitute House Bill 1338 is reported out of committee with a do pass recommendation. 1357, Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I move House Bill 1357 be reported out of committee with due pass.
It's been moved and seconded that House Bill 1357 be reported out of committee due pass. There are amendments. Representative Stonier?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move adoption of the amendment.
It's been moved and seconded that the amendment Clark 290 be adopted. Discussion. Representative Stonier?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment incorporates, well, first, it just builds on the intent of the original bill, which is to increase funding for special ed services in our public schools with some policy direction to continue our work as a state in inclusive practices. Now, we also know that universally designed instruction and inclusive practices serves every student in the building, and so we want to continue making sure that our enhanced funding, where we are able to do it, is going to continue good policy work in our schools. So there's some capture in there for safety net, operations and access to funding to help cash flow in some of our districts, and additionally continue some of the work that benefits all students for better outcomes. So I ask for the committee's support.
Thank you, Representative Stonier. Additional discussion? Representative Keaton?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this is a really good amendment, especially around the safety net funding and moving it from annually to being available to distribute quarterly. That is the bucket of money that is available when gaps happen, emergencies happen, and kids with special needs aren't getting the services they need. So that safety net funding is critical. We support this amendment.
Thank you, Representative Keaton. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will all members wishing to adopt the amendment Clark 290 please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Representative Stonier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move adoption of the amendment.
It has been moved and seconded that the amendment Wargacki 154 be adopted. Discussion. Representative Stonier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There was one piece left out that we thought would be helpful. So it comes to us in a line amendment, which just provides some information to help us determine how we might move forward in better outcomes for students down the road. And the increased cost was so modest that we thought the value was worthy of consideration. Please vote yes on the amendment.
Thank you, Representative Stonier. Additional discussion. Representative Rood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Asking for a no on the amendment. As you are aware, there's another bill on isolation and restraint. There's been a lot of work that's been done over the last couple of years on that topic, and so to try to address pieces of that in this particular bill, I feel is misplaced, and that conversation should remain separate. So asking for a no.
Thank you, Representative Rude. Are there any additional comments? Seeing none, will all members wishing to adopt the amendment Wargacki 154 please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The ayes appear to have it. The amendment is adopted. There is one final amendment. Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move Mackeson 369.
It's been moved and seconded that the amendment Mackeson 369 be adopted, standard null and void. All members wishing to adopt the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move that the adopted amendments be incorporated into Substitute House Bill 1357 and that Substitute House Bill 1357 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded. Substitute House Bill 1357 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation. Discussion. Representative Stonier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The bill before this committee makes, as I said in the discussion of the substitute, positive step forward and gives us some direction as we move toward later in session when we're taking a look at the budget in whole. The rest of my remarks from the sub discussion stand. So I'll close my remarks there, asking for support.
Thank you, Representative Stonier. Additional discussion. Representative Keaton.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Special education is a unique challenge, not just for the students, but for the districts. Every case is different, and we need flexibility to be able to handle those. There's also been a large rise in special education cases, and the 16% cap, we were hoping that would go away. Unfortunately, we still have that in place. So this bill takes a big step in the right direction, but because there's so much work to still be done, we'll be mixed on this side, but I'm voting yes as this is a step in the right direction.
Thank you, Representative Keaton. Are there any additional comments? Mr. Glatz, will you please call the roll?
Ormsby.
Ormsby, aye.
Ormsby votes aye. Gregerson.
Aye.
Gregerson votes aye. Macri.
Aye.
Macri votes aye. Couture.
Aye.
Couture votes aye. Connors.
Aye.
Connors votes aye. Penner. Penner votes aye. Schmick.
Aye.
Schmick votes aye. Berg. Berg votes aye. Berquist.
Representative Berquist votes aye.
Berquist votes aye. Burnett. Burnett votes aye. Caldier.
Aye.
Caldier votes aye. Callan.
Aye.
Callan votes aye. Corey.
Aye.
Corey votes aye. Cortez. Aye. Cortez votes aye. Dolio. Dolio votes aye. Dye. Dye votes nay without recommendation. Fitzgibbon.
Aye.
Fitzgibbon votes aye. Keaton.
Keaton votes aye.
Keaton votes aye. Levitt. Levitt votes aye. Lekanoff.
Aye.
Lekanoff votes aye. Manjares.
Aye.
Manjares votes aye. Marshall.
Aye.
Marshall votes aye. Peterson.
Aye.
Peterson votes aye. Paulette.
Nay without recommendation.
Paulette votes nay without recommendation. Rude. Rude votes nay without recommendation. Ryu.
Ryu votes aye.
Ryu votes aye. Springer.
Aye.
Springer votes aye. Stonier.
Aye.
Stonier votes aye. Street. Street votes aye. Ty. Ty votes aye. Derringer.
Aye.
Derringer votes aye.
Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 28 ayes, 3 nays, and 0 excused.
By your vote, Substitute House Bill 1357 is reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation. And that concludes our run through the first list of bills the committee have been briefed on, and would request a staff briefing on amendments for agenda items 11 through 20.
Mr. Chair, the first item with amendments is Substitute House Bill 1391, number 11.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Luke Wickham, counsel to the Early Learning and Human Services Committee. Substitute House Bill 1391 is the bill that makes procedural changes and requires some data collection and reporting related to juvenile diversion agreements. There is a proposed second substitute from Representative Cortez that was heard during the public hearing that removes some components of the underlying committee substitute. Those components that are removed included include the expansion of the scope of consolidated juvenile service programs to include diversion programs, allowing the Department of Children, Youth, and Families to provide grant funding to local governments for diversion-related programs, and a grant program at the Department of Children, Youth, and Families to support community-based programs that divert youth from entering the juvenile justice system. So those three things were removed in the proposed substitute, and there's one amendment to that proposed substitute, which adds a null and void clause.
The grant program that is being removed in the substitute bill was subject to availability of funds, so a specific dollar amount was not initially tied to the bill. However, in the fiscal note from the DCYF, they did assume $140,000 per biennium for staff to actually administer that grant program. That would no longer be needed if this amendment is adopted.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you for the briefing.
The next item is item number 12, House Bill 1460. There's one amendment, which is the standard null and void. And then the next item is 13, second substitute, House Bill 1491.
Hello.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. Serena Dolly, staff to the Housing Committee. House Bill 1491 relates to transit-oriented development. There are 6 amendments in the EBB. The first is SEER 147 by Representative Fitzgibbon. That amendment removes the requirement for the Department of Commerce to convert different measurements of residential density to the transit-oriented development density and floor area ratio requirements in the bill.
Jackie Cobble, staff to the committee. This will likely reduce some of the costs to the Department of Commerce that they assumed in their fiscal note, particularly the $450,000 they assumed for contracts in the first biennium, but the amount of that decrease is indeterminate.
Thank you.
The next one is SEER 148 by Representative Penner. That amendment removes the requirement that buildings constructed within a station area must maintain 10% of all units as affordable housing or 20% of all units as workforce housing, while allowing buildings that meet those requirements to be eligible for the new property tax exemption.
I do not anticipate that this would change the assumptions in the fiscal note.
Thank you.
The third one is SEER 150 by Representative Connors. That amendment changes the affordability requirement for residential buildings and station areas by requiring at least 10% of all units to be affordable to households at or below 120% of median income.
And similarly, I do not anticipate that this would change what is assumed in the fiscal note for the fiscal impact.
The fourth amendment is SEER 149 by Representative Manjares. It allows a city legislative authority to exempt the city from the requirements in the bill.
This would reduce costs to cities that vote to be exempt from this transit-oriented development requirements, as well as likely reduce costs to the Department of Commerce, who would not need to provide grants or technical assistance to those cities.
And the fifth one is SEER 151 by Representative Connors. It changes the effective date of the bill to April 1st, 2026.
This would likely shift some of the costs for the Department of Commerce to begin later in the fiscal year with a delayed effective date to develop that guidance. And Cobble 024, offered by Representative Ormsby, is a standard null and void. And that concludes our remarks.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of our analysts? Thank you for the amendment briefing.
The next item is item number 14, Substitute House Bill 1516. It has one amendment, which is the standard null and void. The next item with amendments is item number 16, Substitute House Bill 1583, and that one amendment to that bill is also a standard null and void. Item number 17, Substitute House Bill 1587 is the next bill.
Mr. Chair, as a reminder, Substitute House Bill 1587 allows a local government to establish its own local government partner promise scholarship program within the Washington State Opportunity Scholarship Program. The promise scholarship must be administered by the Opportunity Scholarship, which must assist the local government partner in the selection, notification, and disbursement of scholarship funds. Henry 112, offered by Representative Berquist, changes the state matching amount to $250,000 per fiscal year for each local government partner program. From the $300,000 that was in the underlying substitute, and requires the pledge amount to have been made by February 1st, 2025 to be included in the 25-27 biennium. Renton and Tukwila are the only jurisdictions who have submitted pledges, so the fiscal impact would be $265,000 in fiscal 25 and $335,000 in fiscal year 26. But if the bill doesn't pass, the pledges would go towards the main Opportunity Scholarship Program, so the amounts as stated in statute would be matched at maintenance level with no additional costs due to the bill for the 25-27 biennium. There is no restriction on the number of local governments starting in the 27-29 biennium with the $250,000 per fiscal year per local government partner, so the 4-year total impact is indeterminate.
Thank you. Questions for Ms. Henry? Thank you.
The next item with an amendment is item number 18, Substitute House Bill 1614. That is the standard null and void. And then the next item is item number 19, House Bill 1647.
As a reminder, House Bill 1647 is DNR request legislation.
Ms. Smith, pardon the interruption. Representative Schmick?
Thank you. I'd like to remove the amendment on House Bill 1647 that I have.
There are no more amendments in the EBB.
Thank you very much.
And the last item in this group is item number 20, Substitute House Bill 1662.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ethan Moreno, nonpartisan staff of the House Education Committee. House Bill 1662 requires the State Board of Education, the Washington Professional Educator Standards Board, the Financial Education Public-Private Partnership, and the Washington State Charter School Commission to operate independently of the OSPI and make provision for their separate administrative services effective July 1, 2026. There is one amendment in the EBB for it. It's MOET 387, sponsored by Representative Stonier, and it delays the implementation and effective dates by 1 year, thereby requiring the State Board, the Professional Educator Standards Board, the FEP, and the Charter School Commission to exercise their authority to operate independently and make separate administrative services provisions effective July 1, 2027. The amendment also makes corresponding changes to the related transition support duties of the OFM and the OSPI, and it finally delays the applicability of the null and void clause by 1 year to June 30th, 2026.
In terms of fiscal impact, this will delay some of the costs by year, specifically the AGO cost of $131,000, state auditor cost of $54,000, and some of the DES costs of $476,000. I expect the one-time $306,000 OFM costs to stay in the same biennium, since OFM would still need to do the prep work with changing the HR and accounting systems before the agencies become their own independent agencies administratively. That concludes our remarks.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Thank you. For the amendment briefings, the committee will be going at ease for caucus and nutrition. We expect to be back by 1 p.m. The committee is at ease. House Appropriations Committee will come back to order for possible executive session. Beginning with agenda item number 11, House Bill 1391. Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move the proposed second substitute House Bill 1391, also H-1674.1, be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that second substitute House Bill 1391, H-1674.1, be reported out of committee due pass. There is an amendment to the second substitute. Representative Gregerson.
Thank you. I move Walker 456.
It's been moved and seconded that the amendment Walker 456 be adopted. Null and void amendment. All those in favor of adopting Walker 456 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The amendment is adopted. Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move that the adopted amendment be incorporated into second substitute House Bill 1391, and that second substitute House Bill 1391 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that second substitute House Bill 1391 be reported out of committee due pass. Discussion. Representative Cortez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've said this before. I'll say it again. Diversion works. Youth who are diverted have lower recidivism rates than youth who go through the court system. Study after study has shown this to be true. Young people have a much better rate of outcomes when they are diverted out of the formal juvenile justice system. In light of the crisis at Green Hill, we should prioritize upstream alternatives to detention, which is diversion. Youth participating in diversion have a recidivism rate half of that of those who participate in the formal court process. I believe this bill takes a big step forward in the right direction. I urge the committee vote yes.
Thank you, Representative Cortez. Additional discussion, Representative Couture.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Urging a yes vote on this bill. I know that the prime sponsor and myself wish we could have done a little bit more, but given the circumstances we find ourselves in this year, this is still a good step forward, and we should be, looking at our diversion programs and seeing where we can make them better. Urging a yes.
Thank you, Representative Couture. Are there any other comments? We will try an oral roll call vote. Will all members wishing to report second substitute House Bill 1357 from committee with a 1391, second substitute House Bill 1391 from committee with due pass recommendation, please signify so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. With Representative Callan excused. I believe that is all. Yes. With Representative Callan excused, does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 30 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 excused.
By your vote, second substitute House Bill 1391 is reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation. 1460, Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move that House Bill 1460 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It has been moved and seconded that House Bill 1460 be reported out of committee due pass. There is an amendment. Vice Chair.
Thank you. I move Walker 457.
It's been moved and seconded that the amendment Walker 457 be adopted as standard null and void. All members wishing to adopt the amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The amendment is adopted. Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move that the adopted amendment be incorporated into substitute House Bill 1460 and that substitute House Bill 1460 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
Been moved and seconded that substitute House Bill 1460 be reported out of committee due pass. Discussion. Representative Couture.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a great bill. It comes to us as a trailer of a bill that we previously passed into law a session or two ago about protection order hope cards. And as you know, for forever, people who are survivors of domestic violence and have a protection order had to carry around stacks and stacks of paperwork inside their purse or on their person. But this is a new tool, a great tool. Our law enforcement likes it. The people who have previously experienced domestic violence like it. This allows them to use a little card to show that they have a protection order, and it's really in line with trauma-informed practices. I would urge its adoption.
Thank you, Representative Couture. Further discussion, Representative Levitt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I couldn't agree more. This is an important bill to recognize the trauma that our domestic violence victims have endured, and anything to make it easier on them to be successful. We certainly appreciate the administrator of the courts also supporting this bill and working to streamline it and make it easier for these individuals who have suffered greatly. Urging a yes vote.
Thank you, Representative Levitt. Additional discussion, Representative Keaton.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. My first week here, I was able to attend the ribbon cutting for the Hope Card that went on, and the dramatic stories that they expressed was very difficult to watch, but I was so impressed by Rep. Griffey and his big heart and how much composure he was able to have during that entire meeting. So it's a good program. It gives them something like that, and it works better to help enforce law enforcement. I was just honored to be able to be there to see that.
Thank you, Representative Keaton. Is there any further discussion? We will try an oral roll call. Mr. Glatz. Will all members wishing to report substitute House Bill 1460 from committee with a due pass recommendation, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. With Representative Callan excused. Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 30 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 excused.
By your vote, Substitute House Bill 1460 is reported out of committee with the due pass recommendation. 1491, Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move that second substitute House Bill 1491 be reported out of committee with the due pass recommendation.
It has been moved and seconded that second substitute House Bill 1491 be reported out of committee due pass. There are amendments. Representative Fitzgibbon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the adoption of Amendment Dolly 147.
It has been moved and seconded that the amendment Dolly 147 be adopted. Discussion. Representative Fitzgibbon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment removes work from the Department of Commerce, which I think would actually be pretty useful work, which is to direct the department to convert different calculations of residential density into the calculation that's used in the underlying bill to facilitate ease of implementation for local governments. I think that would be a useful thing. I think that's something that we should work on in a future year when our budget situation is not quite so tight. So proposing this purely to reduce the cost of the bill, ask for your support.
Thank you, Representative Fitzgibbon. Additional discussion, Representative Connors.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We agree.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Members wishing to adopt the amendment Dolly 147, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. There are additional amendments. Representative Penner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Move Amendment 148.
It has been moved and seconded that the amendment Dolly 148 be adopted. Discussion. Representative Penner.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. I think that we can agree generally on the big picture here that housing in proximity to transportation systems is a good thing, and that all housing is affordable housing in some sense, and that we're raising the supply of housing when we build housing of any type. This amendment just shifts the conversation ever so slightly away from mandating the makeup of construction around this transit to incentivizing construction, particularly around housing or multifamily housing. And so rather than approaching this from a SimCity 3000 perspective, saying this shall be how things are developed here, this is more of an incentivization amendment. So urging support of this amendment.
Thank you, Representative Penner. Additional discussion. Representative Peterson.
Thank you, Chair Ormsby. Asking for a no vote on this amendment. I think the heart of this bill is making sure that as we invest in these areas around transit and in our transit system as well, that transit is accessible and therefore the housing is accessible to all Washingtonians. I think this very modest housing affordability requirements are something that our cities have been asking for, that many advocates have been asking for, and the MFT extension is also helping to offset some of those costs for our developers. I think this has been a very well worked out compromise, and I think this amendment would do some damage to some of that work that's been done, so asking for a no. Thanks.
Thank you, Representative Peterson. Is there any additional discussion? All members wishing to adopt the amendment Dolly 148 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
No.
The noes appear to have it. The amendment is not adopted. There are additional amendments. Representative Connors?
Thank you. I move Amendment 150.
It's been moved and seconded that the amendment Dolly 150 be adopted. Discussion. Representative Connors?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment just changes the AMI on the bill to 120% of area median income, seeing that we're doing some other bills within this committee that move it up, especially to help with workforce areas and workforce housing. It would make it available to more people, so asking for a yes vote.
Thank you, Representative Connors. Additional comments? Representative Paulette?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm asking for a no vote on this amendment. Taxpayers are spending billions of dollars on developing transit, and the goal isn't to develop transit in order to only have wealthy people live near transit. The dream is to be able to have working families, people with disabilities, et cetera, to be able to afford to live near transit. They're the people who frankly need it most. And having households at 120% of median household income, about $150,000 in Seattle, is not affordable housing. That's market rate housing. And so I ask for a no vote to keep the modest amount of truly affordable housing in the bill.
Thank you, Representative Paulette. Additional discussion, Representative Couture.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not in the Housing Committee, but we passed a covenant home ownership program that was 120% AMI, and that isn't for rich people, so I don't understand why this amendment is for rich people, urging its adoption.
Thank you, Representative Couture. Are there any additional comments? Seeing none, will all members wishing to adopt the amendment Dolly 150 please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
No.
The noes appear to have it. The amendment is not adopted. There are additional amendments. Representative Manjares?
I move Amendment 149.
It has been moved and seconded that the amendment Dolly 149 be adopted. Discussion? Representative Manjares?
Thank you, Chair. This just allows the cities to have control of their own communities and allows them to opt out. Asking for a yes.
Thank you, Representative Manjares. Are there additional comments? Representative Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Ormsby. Asking for a no vote on this. And a lot of the supply work we've done, bipartisan supply work we've done over the past few years, we have made it that all cities of a certain size must comply. So everybody is doing their part to make sure that we are, in fact, addressing the housing crisis that is in every corner of the state. If we accept this amendment, then some cities may opt out and may not be carrying the weight of addressing the housing needs in their community as well. So asking for a no vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Peterson. Are there any additional comments? Will all members wishing to adopt the amendment Dolly 149 please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
No.
The noes appear to have it. The amendment is not adopted. There are additional amendments. Representative Connors?
Yes, I move Amendment 151.
It's been moved and seconded that the amendment Dolly 151 be adopted. Discussion. Representative Connors?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This just changes the effective date of the bill to April 1st of 2026 instead of 90 days after final adjournment of the legislative session. It would give the legislature some time to review the TOD study before the implementation of this bill. Asking for a yes vote.
Thank you, Representative Connors. Additional comments? Representative Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Ormsby. Asking for a no vote on this. I appreciate the idea of trying to give us all a little bit more time, but oddly, by extending the effective date, we would kind of hamper the work that Commerce can do with our cities to actually have our cities adopt these regulations, which are due. The cities have to finish this work by December of 2029, and any extension of the effective date will interrupt the process for our cities to work closely with Commerce to make sure that we implement these policies correctly across the state. So asking for a no vote here. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Peterson. Are there any other comments? Will all members wishing to adopt the amendment Dolly 151 please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
No.
The noes appear to have it. The amendment is not adopted. There is one final amendment. Representative Gregerson?
I move Cobble 024.
It's been moved and seconded that the amendment Cobble 024 be adopted, standard null and void. All members wishing to adopt the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Vice Chair Gregerson?
Thank you. I move that the adopted amendments be incorporated into the third substitute to House Bill 1491 and that the third substitute House Bill 1491 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that third substitute House Bill 1491 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation. Discussion. Representative Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Ormsby. Asking for a yes vote on this very important piece of legislation. Over the last few years, as you know, we have done a lot of work in the housing space, both on the support side by making incredible investments in our housing trust fund, on the stabilization side, really working with trying to support those families that are renters, and especially on the supply side. This is one of the most important supply bills that has had bipartisan support in the past. This is a bill that's been highlighted by both the governor and the lieutenant governor and the work that they've been doing as they reach out across the state to find the true needs of both builders and developers, realtors, advocates for housing, and of course, making sure that we make these investments near the transit investments that we've already made. As I said, this is probably the #1 supply bill that we could pass this session, so asking for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Peterson. Further discussion, Representative Connors?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It'll probably be it will be a mixed vote on our side today on this bill. I will be voting yes today. I have had the fortunate experience to work with Representative Reed on this bill, and she has worked with me to add an MFTE amendment to help counteract for our developers to be able to do affordable housing on this side, and I really appreciate the bipartisan work she is doing with me as part of this bill. But that being said, there are many other concerns on this side of the aisle with the fact of some of the mandatory regulations to our cities, the implementation timeline, wanting some more clarification on parking, and possibly working on the MFT bit a little bit. And we've also talked about some railway stations that might be impacted that we're doing a little extra work on this side. So I will be a yes today, but I might be the only one over here.
Thank you, Representative Connors. Additional discussion, Representative Dye?
Thank you, Chair Ormsby. I just wanted to point out on this bill how it conflicts with two very important environmental policies. The first, the Growth Management Act that was built and says in its intent section that it was designed to densify urban in order to protect wildlands and farmlands and open spaces. And then this bill, which is to densify around transit. And then finally, the bills that we passed in the HEAL Act, where we talk about disparities for environmental justice reasons, disparities of health and well-being amongst our communities of color that are disparately impacted by climate change. And if you look at the HEAL Act map, or if you look at the environmental disparities maps, you will see that most of the disparities are occurring around these dense transit areas where logistically you're going to put transit near some of the most highly congested areas in your highways, but they overlap exactly with the Environmental Justice Act where those health disparities are occurring the most. So intersections around Tukwila where 405 and 5 meet, areas where there's large amount of transit, where you have a major airport, where you have massive amounts of visitors and parking. And so you have these disparities, and then you're suggesting that you should densify that area in a place that has significant urban heat island effect because of the amount of development that's there, and then to densify that development. So in my opinion, this goes counter to the environmental well-being of the people who are most disparately impacted by environmental health consequences of dense, deep urbanization. And the fact that you wouldn't take that 120% and say, it says to me, yes, we want these communities to continue to impact the health of the people that are most impacted by climate change. And I will be voting no. I'm not urging anybody to do what they want to do, but I'm just saying I'm voting no. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Dye. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Glatz, will you please call the roll?
Ormsby?
Ormsby, aye.
Ormsby votes aye. Gregerson?
Aye.
Gregerson votes aye. Macri?
Aye.
Macri votes aye. Couture?
Do not pass.
Couture votes nay, do not pass. Connors?
Aye.
Connors votes aye. Penner? Penner votes nay without recommendation. Schmick?
Do not pass.
Schmick votes nay, do not pass. Berg?
Berg votes aye.
Berg votes aye. Berquist?
Representative Berquist votes aye.
Berquist votes aye. Burnett? Burnett votes nay, do not pass. Caldeer? Caldeer votes nay without recommendation. Callan?
Excused.
Callan is excused. Corey?
Do not pass.
Corey votes nay, do not pass. Cortez? Cortez votes aye. Dolio? Aye. Dolio votes aye. Dye? No. Dye votes nay, do not pass. Fitzgibbon? Aye. Fitzgibbon votes aye. Keaton?
Keaton votes nay without recommendation.
Keaton votes nay without recommendation. Levitt? Levitt votes aye. Lekanoff? Aye. Lekanoff votes aye. Manjares?
No, do not pass.
Manjares votes nay, do not pass. Marshall?
No, do not pass.
Marshall votes nay, do not pass. Peterson?
Aye.
Peterson votes aye. Paulette?
Aye.
Paulette votes aye. Rude? Rude votes nay, do not pass. Ryu?
Ryu votes aye.
Ryu votes aye. Springer? Aye. Springer votes aye. Stonier?
Aye.
Stonier votes aye. Street? Street votes aye. Ty? Ty votes aye. Theringer? Aye. Theringer votes aye.
Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 19 ayes, 11 nays, and 1 excused.
By your vote, this bill.
Third substitute, House Bill 1491.
Thank you. Third substitute, House Bill 1391 is reported out. 1491 is reported out of committee with a do pass recommendation. 1460. No, I'm sorry. I'm on the wrong page. 1516. Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move that substitute House Bill 1516 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that substitute House Bill 1516 be reported out of committee do pass. There is an amendment. Vice Chair Gregerson.
I move Morris 008.
It's been moved and seconded that the amendment Morris 008 be adopted, standard null and void. All members wishing to adopt the amendment, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move that the adopted amendment be incorporated into second substitute House Bill 1516 and that second substitute House Bill 1516 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that second substitute House Bill 1516 be reported out of committee do pass. Discussion. Representative Ryu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Condominiums can be more affordable options for home ownership and for those of us who no longer wish to care for a large yard like me. Yet very high costs related to condominium construction defect liability, and our state's tolling policy has kept many of them from being built in Washington state outside of Seattle and Bellevue. This bill instructs the Office of the Insurance Commissioner to analyze and recommend how projects that develop new permanently affordable home ownership units may use different insurance coverage options and approaches to reduce costs related to condo construction defect liability while maintaining access to insurance coverage, which will be informative for our market rate condos. And so I'm asking for your support in increasing home ownership options.
Thank you, Representative Ryu. Further discussion, Representative Corey?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with a lot of the sentiments from the good gentlelady, but I don't necessarily think this bill is needed. I think the insurance commissioner can go look at those options now without legislation requiring her to do so. Additionally, I think the bigger area that we can tackle if we're going to solve this problem is tort reform and liability reform. That is what really drove a lot of the condominium construction out of our state. So for that, we're going to be urging a no, and appreciate the time.
Thank you, Representative Corey. Are there any additional comments? Mr. Glatz, will you please call the roll?
Ormsby?
Ormsby, aye.
Ormsby votes aye. Gregerson?
Aye.
Gregerson votes aye. Macri?
Aye.
Macri votes aye. Couture?
Not pass.
Couture votes nay, do not pass. Connors? Connors votes nay, do not pass. Penner?
Pass.
Penner votes nay, do not pass. Schmick?
Do not pass.
Schmick votes nay, do not pass. Berg?
Aye.
Berg votes aye. Berquist?
Representative Berquist votes aye.
Berquist votes aye. Burnett? Burnett votes nay, do not pass. Caldier? Caldier votes nay without recommendation. Callan?
Excused.
Callan is excused. Corey?
Do not pass.
Corey votes nay, do not pass. Cortez? Cortez votes aye. Dolio? Dolio votes aye. Dye? Dye votes nay, do not pass. Fitzgibbon?
Aye.
Fitzgibbon votes aye. Keaton?
Keaton votes nay, do not pass.
Keaton votes nay, do not pass. Excuse me. Levitt? Levitt votes aye. Lekanoff? Aye. Lekanoff votes aye. Manjares?
No, do not pass.
Manjares votes nay, do not pass. Marshall?
Do not pass.
Marshall votes nay, do not pass. Peterson? Aye. Peterson votes aye. Paulette? Aye. Paulette votes aye. Rude? Rude votes nay, do not pass. Ryu?
Ryu votes aye.
Ryu votes aye. Springer? Aye. Springer votes aye. Stonier? Aye. Stonier votes aye. Street? Street votes aye. Ty? Ty votes aye. Derringer? Aye. Derringer votes aye.
Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 18 ayes, 12 nays, and 1 excused.
By your vote, second substitute House Bill 1516 is reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation. 1549?
Thank you. I move that second substitute House Bill 1549 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It has been moved and seconded that second substitute House Bill 1549 be reported out of committee due pass. There are no amendments. Discussion. Representative Dolio?
Thank you, Chair Ormsby. This bill will support workforce development and construction by increasing on-the-job training for apprentices. It increases contractor awareness of existing requirements and resources, and through public transparency, increases connections between contractors and apprenticeship programs. Asking for a yes today.
Thank you, Representative Dolio. Further discussion? Representative Manjares?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we agree. This is a good apprenticeship bill. We have a need for more workforce, and so this is one step in the right direction. We ask for a yes.
Thank you, Representative Manjares. Are there any additional comments? We will try an oral roll call vote, Mr. Glatz. Will all members wishing to report second substitute House Bill 1549 from committee with a due pass recommendation, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. With Representative Callan excused. Does any member wish to change their vote? By your vote, second substitute House Bill 15.
Mr. Chair, I
Yes.
think you may have one more absence.
Oh, thank you. Representative Fitzgibbon is also excused. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
No,
Yes.
actually, he's not excused. He's
Oh.
Fitzgibbon votes aye.
Okay, thank you. You are now unexcused. By your vote, second substitute House Bill 1549 is reported from committee with a due pass recommendation.
Mr. Chair, do you want me to call the roll?
I am so
Or
sorry.
call the tally?
Mr. Glatz, I got distracted. Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 30 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 excused.
Thank you. By your vote, second substitute House Bill 1549 is reported from committee with a due pass recommendation. 1583?
Thank you. I move that substitute House Bill 1583 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It has been moved and seconded that substitute House Bill 1583 be reported out of committee due pass. There is an amendment.
I move Morris 007.
It's been moved and seconded that the amendment Morris 007 be adopted as a standard null and void. All members in favor of the null and void signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Representative Gregerson?
Yeah, I move that the adopted amendment be incorporated into substitute House Bill 1583 and that substitute House Bill 1583 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
And Madam Vice Chair, it should have been second substitute. That's my fault.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Second substitute House Bill 1583 and that second substitute House Bill 1583 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that second substitute House Bill 1583 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation. Discussion. Representative Lekanoff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill establishes a process to reimburse traditional Indian medical practitioners as Indian health care providers through the Washington State Medicaid program. This is a bill where the Health Care Authority needs authorization from Washington State legislation to apply for the 1115 Medicaid waiver. Please join me in voting yes.
Thank you, Representative Lekanoff. Additional discussion? Representative Schmick?
And thank you, Mr. Chair, and we agree. I think that they've shown some real positive successes by using natural healing and counseling, and so I would urge a yes vote.
Thank you, Representative Schmick. Are there any additional comments? We will try an oral roll call. Will all members wishing to report Second substitute House Bill 1583 from committee with a due pass recommendation. Please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. With Representative Callan excused. Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 30 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 excused.
By your vote, second substitute House Bill 1583 is reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation. 1587.
Thank you. I move that substitute House Bill 1587 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It has been moved and seconded that substitute House Bill 1587 be reported out of committee due pass. There is an amendment. Representative Berquist.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move adoption of Amendment Henry 112.
It has been moved and seconded that the amendment Henry 112 be adopted. Discussion. Representative Berquist.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This streamlines the bill a little bit to give it a couple of years before we get hopefully additional governments to be able to join into this program, urging support.
Thank you. Additional discussion. Representative Rood?
Agreed.
Will all members, is there any additional comments? All members wishing to adopt the amendment Henry 112, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. I move that the adopted amendment be incorporated into second substitute House Bill 1587 and that second substitute House Bill 1587 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It has been moved and seconded that second substitute House Bill 1587 be reported out of committee due pass. Discussion. Representative Berquist.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Current government partnership program in the Washington Opportunity Scholarship has just seemed to be a little bit clunkier than I think we were hoping. Only one government agency in the years that this program has been established has even tried to participate. This would allow just a little more involvement in the process as the years go by. I think this is really helpful and beneficial for students. It provides without additional cost, additional scholarship opportunities for students, urging support.
Thank you, Representative Berquist. Additional discussion from Representative Rood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think you're going to see primarily no on the side today. I think it's worth noting that Washington State has some of the most generous financial aid in the entire country. The Opportunity Scholarship is meant to incentivize students to work in the most high-demand areas. It is the only merit-based financial aid that we have. It's unique that the state partners with businesses who contribute to the fund. This bill does not have some of the safeguards that I think many of us would like to see. Income-based, there's no direct link to high-demand fields and programs of study. There's no GPA requirement or any requirement to be high-performing in K-12. So I'm kind of wondering why I signed on to this bill. I think I think folks know how I feel about GPA requirements, and so I'm going to vote yes today in hopes that we can introduce some kind of merit to qualify for this program.
Thank you, Representative Rood. Are there any other comments? Mr. Glatz, will you please call the roll?
Ormsby?
Ormsby, aye.
Ormsby votes aye. Gregerson?
Aye.
Gregerson votes aye. Macri?
Aye.
Macri votes aye. Couture?
Not pass.
Couture votes nay, do not pass. Connors?
Without recommendation.
Connor votes nay without recommendation. Penner?
Without recommendation.
Penner votes nay without recommendation. Schmick?
Not pass.
Schmick votes nay, do not pass. Berg?
Aye.
Berg votes aye. Berquist?
Representative Berquist votes aye.
Berquist votes aye. Burnett? Burnett votes nay, do not pass. Caldier? Caldier votes nay, do not pass. Callan?
Excused.
Callan is excused. Corey?
Do not pass.
Corey votes nay, do not pass. Cortez? Cortez votes aye. Dolio? Aye. Dolio votes aye. Dye? Dye votes nay, do not pass. Fitzgibbon?
Aye.
Fitzgibbon votes aye. Keaton?
Keaton votes nay without recommendation.
Keaton votes nay without recommendation. Levitt?
Levitt votes aye.
Levitt votes aye. Lukanov? Aye. Lukanov votes aye. Manjares?
No without recommendation.
Manjares votes nay without recommendation. Marshall?
Do not pass.
Marshall votes nay, do not pass. Peterson? Aye. Peterson votes aye. Paulette? Aye. Paulette votes aye. Rude? Rude votes aye. Ryu?
Ryu votes aye.
Ryu votes aye. Springer? Springer votes aye. Stonier?
Aye.
Stonier votes aye. Street? Street votes aye. Ty? Ty votes aye. Derringer? Derringer votes aye.
Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 19 ayes, 11 nays, and 1 excused.
By your vote, second substitute House Bill 1587 is reported from committee with a due pass recommendation. 1614.
I move that substitute House Bill 1614 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that substitute House Bill 1614 be reported out of committee due pass. There is an amendment.
I move Jeffrey 019.
Jeffrey 019 has been moved and seconded. Standard null and void. All members wishing to adopt the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Madam Vice Chair.
Yes, I move that the adopted amendment be incorporated into second substitute House Bill 1614 and that second substitute House Bill 1614 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that second substitute House Bill 1614 be reported out of committee due pass. Discussion. Representative Tai.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This piece of legislation came to us from the request of Department of Revenue. It served to clarify some of the provisions of the capital gain tax and makes technical corrections and changes in order to support the administrations of the tax, asking for your support.
Thank you, Representative Tai. Additional discussion. Representative Manjares.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to be a yes on this bill because it doesn't increase the taxable rate and it doesn't reduce the deduction amount. But we're going to have some mix on our side of the aisle because we do believe this capital gains tax is an income tax, which is against our no income tax laws in this state. So we're going to have some mix on this side, but because it doesn't actually change the taxable rates, I'm going to be a yes.
Thank you, Representative Manjares. Are there any additional comments? Seeing none, Mr. Glatz, will you please call the roll?
Ormsby?
Ormsby, aye.
Ormsby votes aye. Gregerson?
Aye.
Gregerson votes aye. Macri?
Aye.
Macri votes aye. Couture?
Pass.
Couture passes. Connors?
Nay without recommendation.
Connor votes nay without recommendation. Penner? Penner votes nay, do not pass. Schmick?
No without recommendation.
Schmick votes nay without recommendation. Berg?
Votes aye.
Berg votes aye. Berquist?
Representative Berquist votes aye.
Berquist votes aye. Burnett? Burnett votes nay, do not pass. Caldier? Caldier votes nay, do not pass. Callan?
Excused.
Callan is excused. Corey?
Do not pass.
Corey votes nay, do not pass. Cortez? Cortez votes aye. Dolio? Dolio votes aye. Dye? Dye votes nay, do not pass. Fitzgibbon?
Aye.
Fitzgibbon votes aye. Keaton?
Keaton votes nay, do not pass.
Keaton votes nay, do not pass. Levitt? Levitt votes aye. Lekanoff? Lekanoff votes aye. Manjares?
Aye.
Manjares votes aye. Marshall?
Do not pass.
Marshall votes nay, do not pass. Peterson? Aye. Peterson votes aye. Paulette?
Aye.
Paulette votes aye. Rude? Rude votes nay, do not pass. Ryu?
Ryu votes aye.
Ryu votes aye. Springer?
Aye.
Springer votes aye. Stonier?
Aye.
Stonier votes aye. Street? Street votes aye. Ty? Ty votes aye. Derringer?
Aye.
Derringer votes aye. Couture?
Aye.
Couture votes aye.
Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 20 ayes, 10 nays, and 1 excused.
By your vote, second substitute House Bill 1614 is reported from committee with a due pass recommendation. 1647?
I move that House Bill 1647 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that House Bill 1647 be reported out of committee due pass. There are no amendments. discussion. Representative Springer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is legislation that is agency request from the Department of Natural Resources, who oversees the function of open pit or surface mines, gravel mines. There is a program for the owners of those mines to reclaim the land when those mines either cease to operate, change their operation, shrink or grow. There is a fee charge to those mine owners to pay for the reclamation. We are working on some language that we're very close to agreement. We thought we had it with an amendment earlier today, but we found out we didn't. So recommending that we pass this bill along this time, and we will fix the language which has been agreed to when we get to the floor.
Thank you, Representative Springer. Additional discussion, Representative Schmick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I do agree with the sponsor. We will fix this. Moving to the floor will be mixed. I guess our concern is protecting our smaller counties and local governments so they're not having to use taxpayer money to pay a tax. And so we're going to take care of that.
Okay. Thank you, Representative Schmick. Is there any further discussion? We'll try an oral roll call vote. Maybe not?
I think we should call it.
Okay, we will call the roll, Mr. Glatz.
Ormsby?
Ormsby, aye.
Ormsby votes aye. Gregerson?
Aye.
Gregerson votes aye. Macri?
Aye.
Macri votes aye. Couture?
Without recommendation.
Couture votes nay without recommendation. Connors?
Without recommendation.
Connors votes nay without recommendation. Penner?
Without recommendation.
Penner votes nay without recommendation. Schmick?
Aye.
Schmick votes aye. Berg?
Berg votes aye.
Berg votes aye. Berquist?
Representative Berquist votes aye.
Berquist votes aye. Burnett? Burnett votes nay without recommendation. Caldier? Caldier votes nay without recommendation. Callan?
Excused.
Callan is excused. Corey?
Without rec.
Corey votes nay without recommendation. Cortez? Cortez votes aye. Dolio?
Aye.
Dolio votes aye. Dye? Aye. Dye votes aye. Fitzgibbon?
Aye.
Fitzgibbon votes aye. Keaton?
Keaton votes nay without recommendation.
Keaton votes nay without recommendation. Levitt? Levitt votes aye. Lekanoff? Lekanoff votes aye. Manjarez?
Without recommendation.
Manjarez votes nay without recommendation. Marshall?
Without recommendation.
Marshall votes nay without recommendation. Peterson? Aye. Peterson votes aye. Paulette?
Aye.
Paulette votes aye. Rude? Rude votes nay without recommendation. Ryu?
Ryu votes aye.
Ryu votes aye. Springer? Springer votes aye. Stonier?
Aye.
Stonier votes aye. Street? Street votes aye. Ty? Ty votes aye. Derringer?
Aye.
Derringer votes aye.
Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 20 ayes, 10 nays, and 1 excused.
By your vote, House Bill 1614 is reported from committee with a due pass recommendation.
Mr. Chair, that's 1647.
Oh, pardon me. The House Bill 1647 is reported from committee with a due pass recommendation. 1662.
Thank you. I move that substitute House Bill 1662 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It has been moved and seconded that substitute House Bill 1662 be reported out of committee due pass. There are amendments. Representative Stonier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that Amendment Moet 387 be adopted.
It's been moved and seconded that the Amendment Moreno 387 be adopted. Discussion. Representative Stonier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment allows for better planning and a little more on the timeline as these kind of sub-cousin agencies of OSPI move towards independence. I ask for your support.
Thank you, Representative Stonier. Additional discussion. Representative Rude.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? All members wishing to adopt the amendment, Moreno 387, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. I move that the adopted amendment be incorporated into second substitute House Bill 1662, and that second substitute House Bill 1662 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that second substitute House Bill 1662 be reported out of committee due pass. Discussion. Representative Stonier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Education Standards Board, the State Board of Education, the Charter School Commission, and the Financial Education Public-Private Partnership are all smaller organizations under OSPI that were created to do the good work in the education space for people and students in this state. They have been operating quite well and efficiently. However, we are noticing that their operations are a bit delayed when they are in conflict with the operations of the overall larger agency, things like not getting approval for travel and cancellations, and the sub-agencies are having a hard time moving as nimbly and as efficiently as they could. And since they have matured under the support of OSPI long enough, we are thinking that it's about time for them to move into a greater sense of independence so they can be more efficient with the tax dollars that we send them. Please vote yes on the bill.
Thank you, Representative Stonier. Additional discussion, Representative Baroud.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Fully agree with the comments of the previous speaker. This has been something that these small agencies have been asking for the last couple of years, and some of the examples that were given, including delayed payment to contractors, I think creates a situation that's unacceptable. So I'm hopeful that this will create more efficiency and more timeliness for payments.
Thank you, Representative Baroud. Are there any other comments? All members wishing to, we're going to try an oral roll call. Mr. Glatz. Thank you. All members wishing to report second substitute House Bill 1662 from committee with a due pass recommendation, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. With Representative Callan excused. Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 30 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 excused.
By your vote, second substitute House Bill 1662 is reported from committee with a due pass recommendation. And Madam Council, I think we stand at the ready for amendment briefings on agenda items 21 through 27.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item, item 21, substitute House Bill 1668, has one amendment. It's the standard null and void. The next item is item number 22, substitute House Bill 1813.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair Ormsby, members of the committee. Chris Blake, staff of the House Health Care and Wellness Committee. Substitute House Bill 1813 is the bill that shifts some of the behavioral health crisis services between MCO, managed care organizations, and behavioral health administrative services organizations, or BHASOs. And it also requires the Health Care Authority to develop a plan for the reprocurement of managed care contracts under Medicaid. There's a proposed second substitute in the electronic bill book by Representative Macri, and the second substitute would restore the requirement that the managed care organizations contract directly with the behavioral health administrative services organizations to provide behavioral health crisis services. The shift from the managed care organizations to the BHASOs for the behavioral health crisis facility responsibilities is removed, and so is the related transition plan for those facilities. The Health Care Authority must direct the managed care organizations to create or expand delegation arrangements with the behavioral health administrative services organizations, including with respect to providing in-home and facility-based crisis stabilization services. So this would allow the behavioral health administrative services organizations to bill the managed care organizations for services that they deliver in the behavioral health crisis facilities. So the duty is for the behavioral health administrative services organizations to actually contract for the crisis facilities is removed, but it's still an option through these arrangements. The Health Care Authority requirement to conduct a comprehensive funding analysis for the financial needs of each of the behavioral health administrative services organization regions is reduced to a review of the service delivery model in each region. And the strategic plan that was established to prepare for the reprocurement of Medicaid managed care contracts is removed, and the Health Care Authority is directed to begin preparations for a reprocurement instead. Lastly, the data collection and the reporting related to the behavioral health crisis services outcomes and utilization are removed, and so is the behavioral health crisis outreach campaign.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Andy Toulon, staff to the committee. We still don't have a fiscal note on the bill, but as a reminder, there's a preliminary staff estimate on the original bill in the EBB, and that estimate identified 4-year NGFO administrative costs of $5.3 million for the carve-out of crisis services that was in the original bill, and $2.1 million for the procurement of for a total of $7.5 million NGFO over the 4 years. The carve-out of crisis services is not in the proposed substitute, and the administrative costs for the provisions that replace it will be much less costly for the authority to administer, so that will significantly bring down those costs. Likewise, the requirement for HCA to initiate a procurement by July 31st of 2026 is replaced with a requirement for HCA to plan for a procurement, which will also be much less costly on the administrative side. My preliminary staff estimate is that the 4-year NGFO administrative costs for the proposed substitute, for the proposed second substitute, will come down from $7.5 million to somewhere between $500,000 and $1.0 million over the 4 years. Lastly, during the staff briefing on the bill, I pointed out that there are potentially significant indeterminate costs associated with provisions requiring the authority to prospectively adjust Medicaid actuarial rates and to adjust state non-Medicaid funding for new or expanded crisis programs. The proposed second substitute does not modify these provisions, so these fiscal impacts remain. Moving on, there's another amendment in your books, Tool 295, which is the standard null and void.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you for the briefing.
The next item is item number 23, Substitute House Bill 1834.
Good afternoon. Again, Megan Mulvihill, staff to the Consumer Protection Business Committee. As a reminder, Substitute House Bill 1834 is the bill that establishes multiple requirements regarding minor personal information and access to addictive feeds and notifications for businesses providing online services, products, or features likely to be accessed by a minor. There are multiple amendments. First, MOL 552 by Representative Callan removes the exemption for certain interactive gaming platforms, thereby including them in the definition of online service, product, or feature.
Jessica Van Horn, staff to this committee. This would have an indeterminate fiscal impact, but likely increased costs for the Attorney General's office because more services could potentially violate the provisions of the bill.
The next amendment is MOL 546 by Representative Callan, and this allows businesses that provide an online service, product, or feature likely to be accessed by minors who are required to estimate the age of the minor to retain the estimated age or age information.
And this should not change the fiscal impact.
MOL 553 by Representative Callan strikes the requirement for a business that provides an online service, product, or feature likely to be accessed by minors to provide an obvious signal to the minor when the minor is being monitored or tracked if the online service, product, or feature allows the minor's parents, guardians, or other individuals to monitor their online activity or track their location.
And this should not change the fiscal impact.
The next amendment is H1768.1 by Representative Caldier. This requires libraries and public schools who provide internet access on computer terminals to adopt and enforce internet access policies that address minor and student access to harmful internet material. And they need to use a technology protection measure to prevent minors and students from accessing such materials. It also requires libraries to block or filter obscene depictions and child pornography from all patrons, but may authorize certain employees to disable those features upon the request of an adult library patron who is engaged in research or other lawful purposes. It also provides a proposition and ballot measure process to allow library districts to be exempt from the internet access policy requirements, and it adds definitions for child pornography, harmful to minors, obscene, and technology protection measure for those provisions related to public libraries and schools.
And this would have indeterminate impacts for local governments and for school districts.
The next amendment is MOL 551 by Representative Majerez. This elevates the gross misdemeanor of communication with a minor for immoral purposes to a Class C felony seriousness level 3 offense. It also elevates to a Class B felony seriousness level 5 offense the Class C felony offense of communication with a minor for immoral purposes for persons previously convicted of this offense or other specified sex offenses.
This would have indeterminate but increased costs for courts and the Department of Corrections due to the elevation of charges.
And the final amendment is Van G.
Van J 179 by Representative Ormsby, which is your standard null and void.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you for the briefing.
The next item is item number 24, House Bill 1912.
Representative Corey is going to pull his amendment.
And thank you, Representative Connors.
Thank you. And there is one more amendment. One more amendment. It's a standard null and void on this John D. 369.
Thank you. And the striking amendment H1767.1 has been withdrawn.
Okay, the next item is 25, Substitute House Bill 1960.
Good afternoon, Tracy Taylor, staff of the House Finance Committee. There is a proposed second substitute House Bill 1960 in the books by Representative Corey. To remind you that the original bill authorizes a personal property tax exemption for qualified renewable energy facilities, and it imposes a renewable energy excise tax on these qualified renewable energy facilities. It also creates a local investment commitment grant program and creates a new capacity grant program for federally recognized tribes. Under proposed second substitute House Bill 1960, which is H-1766.1, a new definition section is created. It also creates a separate state renewable energy excise tax and a county renewable energy excise tax. The rates in the underlying bill have been recalculated, so the state renewable energy excise tax is approximately 25% of the rate that's in the underlying bill, and the county renewable energy excise tax is approximately 75% of the rate in the underlying bill. The county must impose this local renewable energy excise tax by December 31st, 2026, and the county treasurer must distribute the monies from the local renewable energy excise tax to the local districts in the same proportion as the distribution of the local property taxes in the previous calendar year, which is actually the same calculation in the underlying bill. The state renewable energy excise tax monies will continue to be deposited in the local investment commitment account, and there are a couple repealing of the underlying statutes.
And the proposed second substitute, compared to what was in the fiscal note, is expected to reduce administrative costs assumed for the Department of Revenue to implement the bill. However, the amount of that reduction is indeterminate. And then Amendment Cobble 025 is a standard null and void clause to the proposed second substitute. And then there's also Cobble 026, which is a standard null and void that's drafted to the underlying substitute bill.
Could you repeat that, Ms. Cobble, on the amendment numbers, please?
Cobble 025, that is a standard null and void that is to the proposed second substitute. And then Cobble 026 is the null and void to the underlying substitute bill.
Okay, so 025 applies to the substitute.
Yes, this is a proposed second substitute.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Thank you.
The next item is item number 26, House Bill 1969.
Good morning. For the record, Martha Whaling, staff to the Technology, Economic Development, and Veterans Committee. As a brief reminder, House Bill 1969 creates a grant program and expands firefighting funds for local law enforcement aviation units. There are three amendments sponsored by Representative Burnett in the EBB. The first, WHALE 225, changes administration of the Law Enforcement Aviation Support Grant Program from the Military Department to the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs.
Jessica Van Horn, staff to the committee. As a reminder, under the original bill, the estimated costs were indeterminate, but the military department assumed costs of $360,000 for administration, as well as however much the legislature chooses to appropriate in grants. This amendment would shift those costs from the military department to the Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs. It may or may not change the administrative costs for the program.
Thank you.
The second amendment is WHALE 224, also sponsored by Representative Burnett. It removes all references to sheriff's offices from the Department of Natural Resources' use of suppression funding for aerial wildland firefighting, which restores those provisions to current law.
And this amendment would remove the cost to DNR. As a reminder, that was $1.5 million in the 25-27 biennium, as well as however much would be provided for wildland suppression funding.
Then the third amendment is Whale 223. It removes sheriff's
Mr. Chair,
offices.
we're going to move to drop that one.
Thank you, Representative Burnett. So Whaling 223 is withdrawn.
Thank you.
And then the final amendment is Van J 180, offered by the chair, and it's a standard null and void.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you.
And the last item, Mr. Chair, is item number 27, House Bill 2015.
Good afternoon. Tracy Taylor, staff to the House Finance Committee. House Bill 2015 creates a local law enforcement grant program to be administered by the Criminal Justice Training Commission, creates the supplemental criminal justice account to disperse funds to qualified cities and counties, and authorizes a new local 0.1% sales and use tax for criminal justice purposes. There is amendment in the books, H1765.1 by Representative Berg. It clarifies that in order to be eligible for a grant, a law enforcement agency must be located in a jurisdiction that has authorized the sales and use tax prior to awarding of the grant, and extends the deadline for imposing this local sales and use tax to December 31st of 2026.
Sydney Jeffrey, staff to this committee. This amendment has indeterminate impacts as funding for the grant program is to be distributed to eligible local law enforcement entities, is subject to appropriation. And the last amendment, Jeffrey 018, sponsored by Representative Ormsby, is a standard null and void clause.
Thank you. Any questions? The committee will break for caucus, and we will optimistically say, well, let's just say we'll be returning at 2:45. The committee is at ease. The Appropriations Committee will come back to order for the purpose of possible executive session, beginning with agenda item number 21, 1668.
Thank you, Chair. We move, let's move Substitute House Bill 1668. I move, sorry. Let me try again. Okay. I move that we pass Substitute House Bill 1668 out of committee with the due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that Substitute House Bill 1668 be reported out of committee due pass. There is an amendment. Representative Gregerson.
Thank you. I move Walker 458.
It's been moved and seconded the amendment Walker 458 be adopted. Standard null and void clause. All wishing to adopt the amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move that the adopted amendment be incorporated into second Substitute House Bill 1668, and that second Substitute House Bill 1668 be reported out of committee with the due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that second Substitute House Bill 1668 be reported out of committee due pass. Discussion. Representative Tai.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. When people repeatedly abscond from community custody, they not only make our communities less safe, but require the time and effort of the community correction officers to bring them back into custody. While escape from community custody is a crime, it is unique in that the offender score used to calculate the sentence only consider the previous escape from community custody in the sentence. So this bill allows bad actors to take advantage of the system and in many cases create additional harms to our communities. This piece of legislation requires that escape from community custody is scored the same way as other crime, providing more levers for accountability and allowed the community corrections officers to focus their time on helping people in community to successfully reintegrate into society, prevent recidivism, and keep our communities safer. Asking for your support.
Thank you, Representative Tai. Additional comments, Representative Couture?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and very well said, Representative Ty. I couldn't agree more. This is a great bill that, you know, there was some things removed in Policy Committee that I personally would have liked, but it still does some very helpful things. This is a good public safety bill, and I would like to thank Representative Davis for bringing it to us and urging a yes vote.
Thank you, Representative Couture. Are there any other comments? We will try an oral roll call vote. Will all members wishing to report second substitute House Bill 1662 from committee with a due pass recommendation? 1668. Thank you, Representative Couture. 1668 from so we have adopted the amendment, and we are on final passage of 1668, and we're voting. All caught up. All members wishing to report second substitute House Bill 1668 from committee with a due pass recommendation, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Nay. We have Representatives Macri, Peterson, Dolio, Macri, Peterson, Dolio, and Lekanoff. Voting no. And Callan is excused. Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glass, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 26 ayes, 4 nays, and 1 excused.
By your vote, second substitute House Bill 1668 is reported out of committee due pass. 1813.
Thank you. I move that substitute House Bill 1813, the proposed second substitute House Bill 1813, also known as H-1762.1, be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded. The second substitute House Bill 1813, H-1762.1, be reported out due pass. There is an amendment. Representative Gregerson.
Thank you. I move 2 Law 295.
It has been moved and seconded. The amendment 2 Law 295 be adopted as a standard null and void. All members wishing to adopt the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. I move that the adopted amendment be incorporated into second substitute House Bill 1813, and that second substitute House Bill 1813 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that second substitute House Bill 1813 be reported out of committee due pass. Discussion. Representative Macri.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Asking for a yes vote on this bill. It began with quite an ambitious vision to carve out our behavioral health crisis system from managed care and to direct the Healthcare Authority to do some planning and re-procure for managed care services. In this more slimmed down version, it requires the agency to support a more delegated arrangement with our behavioral health administrative service organizations for coordinating and overseeing our behavioral health crisis care services in community. Our behavioral health crisis care services are kind of like the public utility of community behavioral health, available to all people regardless of their insurance or needs, and this bill intends to ensure that those services are more readily available to all of our residents across the state, and I hope the committee will join me in passing this bill today. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Macri. Additional discussion, Representative Schmick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is an ambitious goal to what we're trying to achieve. I can see what we're trying to do, and we're going to have to keep working on it. I would like to see this bill keep moving today out of committee where we can continue to work on it because it is an extremely complicated issue. And at the crux of it is how do you handle people that have gone to a crisis center and they've been stabilized, and then how do you continue to get that care, a warm handoff, so that they aren't dropped and they lose in the middle there, because this is all about the patient. It does us no good if we talk somebody, quote unquote, off the ledge, out of that crisis moment, and yet then don't follow up with the proper help and care. And that is what we're trying to achieve. Are we there yet? No. And we've just got to keep pounding, but we will get there, I hope, eventually, so that at the end of the day, people will get the services they really, really need and to help them. So I'll vote yes today. And you realize that, yeah, since I was the only no in committee, but I also recognize that there's a lot of work here to be done to get to a final place where this will really help all of our citizens with the care they so desperately need. So we'll be mixed.
Thank you, Representative Schmick. Are there any other comments? Mr. Glatz, will you please call the roll?
Ormsby?
Ormsby, aye.
Ormsby votes aye. Gregerson? Gregerson votes aye. Macri?
Aye.
Macri votes aye. Couture?
Without recommendation.
Couture votes nay without recommendation. Connors?
Nay without recommendation.
Connor votes nay without recommendation. Penner?
Without recommendation.
Penner votes nay without recommendation. Schmick? Schmick votes aye. Berg?
Aye.
Berg votes aye. Bergquist?
Representative Berquist votes aye.
Bergquist votes aye. Burnett? Burnett votes nay without recommendation. Caldier?
Aye.
Caldier votes aye. Callan?
Excused.
Callan has been excused. Corey?
Do not pass.
Corey votes nay, do not pass. Cortez? Cortez votes aye. Dolio?
Aye.
Dolio votes aye. Dye? Dye votes nay, do not pass. Fitzgibbon? Aye. Fitzgibbon votes aye. Keaton?
Keaton votes nay without recommendation.
Keaton votes nay without recommendation. Levitt?
Levitt votes aye.
Levitt votes aye. Lukanov?
Aye.
Lukanov votes aye. Manjares?
Aye.
Manjares votes aye. Marshall?
Aye.
Marshall votes aye. Peterson? Aye. Peterson votes aye. Paulette?
Paulette, aye.
Paulette votes aye. Rude?
Aye.
Rude votes aye. Ryu?
Ryu votes aye.
Ryu votes aye. Springer? Aye. Springer votes aye. Stonier?
Aye.
Stonier votes aye. Street? Street votes aye. Ty?
Ty votes aye.
Ty votes aye. Derringer? Aye. Derringer votes aye.
Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 23 ayes, 7 nays, and 1 excused.
By your vote, second substitute House Bill 1813 is reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation. 1834.
Thank you. I move that substitute House Bill 1834 be reported out of committee with the due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that substitute House Bill 1834 be reported out of committee due pass. There are amendments. Representative Ryu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Mulvaney 552.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the amendment Mulvihill 552. Representative Ryu.
Thank you. Here we are removing the gaming exemption in the subsection that creates a broad category of exemptions which would allow many platforms to use dark patterns as long as it was necessary for their product. There is a concern that the law is not appropriately tailored, that it is under-inclusive. The prime sponsor wanted to let everyone know that she is working with Roblox to craft a much more narrow exemption which covers their concerns. So I ask for your support.
Thank you, Representative Ryu. Additional discussion, Representative Corey?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Asking for a no on this amendment. We think it was right for the committee to adopt it, and we're worried about it being taken out. We appreciate that the prime sponsor wants to work towards this, but we think this amendment currently solves that problem. Urging a no.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments? All members wishing to adopt the amendment Mulvihill 552, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, no.
No.
The ayes appear to have it. The amendment is adopted. There are further amendments. Representative Ryu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Mulvihill 546.
It has been moved and seconded that the amendment Mulvihill 546 be adopted. Representative Ryu.
Thank you. This resolves a concern raised by the Association of Washington Business and their members that the platforms would be forced to constantly redo their age assurance work. And so it also allows companies to use safety settings designed for minors' accounts. And so I ask for your vote.
Thank you, Representative Ryu. Additional comments? Representative Corey?
We agree.
Are there any other comments? All members wishing to adopt the amendment Mulvihill 546, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Representative Ryu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Mulvihill 553.
It's been moved and seconded that the amendment Mulvihill 553 be adopted. Discussion. Representative Ryu.
Thank you. This strikes the notification of guardian monitoring, and so it addresses concerns around parental rights. Please vote yes.
Thank you, Representative Ryu. Additional discussion. Representative Connors?
Yes, thank you so much for this amendment. I think maybe it alerted all of us when I said that I was concerned about our kids not being able to be tracked by Life 360. I know it's a really important thing for me if I wake up at 10 o'clock at night and my kids aren't home and I'm really worried about where they are. I want to see where they are and find out that they're okay. And so I really appreciate from a mom's point of view that this amendment was removed or taken off of the bill. Thank you so much. Encouraging a yes.
Thank you, Representative Connors. Are there any other comments? Will all members wishing to adopt the amendment Mulvihill 553 please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The amendment is adopted. There are additional amendments. Representative Caldier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment H1768.1.
It has been moved and seconded that the amendment H1768.1 be adopted. Discussion. Representative Caldier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Several years ago, I had an issue in my district where a mother brought her daughter to a public library, and I'm trying to figure out how to say this properly. It was discovered that there was a room, because there was pornographic material readily available, not just for adults, but also for children, where people could go to view that. This was a big issue at the time. Unfortunately, that bill did not pass. I believe that when we're looking at protecting children, it is absolutely important to look at the notifications and everything else that comes up. But I also believe that making sure our children are not subject to inadvertently viewing pornographic material because it is open and available to them, and they may accidentally type in certain things, and that pulls up. So I urge adoption of this amendment.
Thank you. Representative Caldier. Additional discussion? Representative Ryu.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Unfortunately, this amendment affects access to content, which this bill is not intending to restrict. And so this policy would definitely be more appropriate in a separate bill. So I ask you to vote no.
Thank you, Representative Ryu. Are there any additional comments? Representative Corey.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to echo the comments from my colleague, Representative Caldier, and strongly urge a yes in this. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to do the right thing for kids and parents across the state, and this bill seems like a perfect place for it. Potentially limiting harmful content, I think this is a smart move, and I would strongly urge a yes as a parent. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional comments? Representative Caldier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did want to point out the title of the bill, which is an act relating to protecting Washington children online. And I believe that that is broad enough to involve protecting them from pornographic material. So I urge adoption of this amendment, and there you go.
Thank you. Representative Caldier, are there any other comments? Will all members wishing to adopt the amendment H1768.1 please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
No.
The noes appear to have it. The amendment is not adopted. There are additional amendments. Representative Mangeras?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment puts harsher.
Please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I need
adoption.
to move it. Yes, I want to move MOVI 551.
It has been moved and seconded that the amendment Mobile Hill 551 be adopted. Discussion. Representative Mangeras?
Thank you, Chair. This amendment increases the felony for persons trying to communicate with a minor for immoral purposes. And so I strongly ask for a yes vote. Same thing. We need to. There needs to be a strong deterrent and protect our children. So I ask for a yes.
Thank you, Representative Mangeras. Additional discussion. Representative Ryu?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Unfortunately, this is a business regulation bill, and it is not the right vehicle to be changing the criminal code. And this issue should be a bill for the Community Safety Committee and not for the Consumer Protection and Business Committee that it was heard in. So I ask for a no.
Thank you, Representative Ryu. Are there any additional comments? Seeing none, will all members wishing to adopt the amendment Mova Hill 551 please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The noes appear to have it. The amendment is not adopted. There is one last amendment.
I move Van Horn 179.
It's been moved and seconded that the amendment Van Horn 179 be adopted, standard null and void. All members wishing to adopt the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Representative Gregerson.
Thank you. I move that the adopted amendments be incorporated into Second Substitute House Bill 1834, and that Second Substitute House Bill 1834 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that Second Substitute House Bill 1834 be reported out of committee due pass. Discussion. Representative Ryu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With this Attorney General request bill, we increase protection for our children from addictive social media platforms that target children for profit. We established regulations regarding age estimation, collection and use of minors' personal information, and precise location information, profiling and privacy, and use of algorithms for addictive fees, among other issues. I ask for your support.
Thank you, Representative Ryu. Additional discussion, Representative Corey.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to be asking for a no today on this bill. It is pretty overly prescriptive in terms of how it is telling content providers to manage certain technological pieces like feeds, but it also goes woefully short in actually protecting children online. The good gentlelady referred to protecting from other things, and I agree, which is why we should have adopted some of our amendments we offered here. I'm hopeful that when the prime sponsor is feeling better and back in person, we can actually continue to work on this to actually get it to a point where we are protecting kids online, but I don't think we're there yet. So asking for a no.
Thank you, Representative Corey. Are there any other comments? Mr. Glatz, will you please call the roll?
Ormsby?
Ormsby, aye.
Ormsby votes aye. Gregerson?
Aye.
Gregerson votes aye. Macri?
Aye.
Macri votes aye. Couture?
Not pass.
Couture votes nay, do not pass. Connors?
Without recommendation.
Connor votes nay without recommendation. Penner?
Without recommendation.
Penner votes nay without recommendation. Schmick?
No, do not pass.
Schmick votes nay, do not pass. Berg?
Votes aye.
Berg votes aye. Berquist?
Representative Berquist votes aye.
Berquist votes aye. Burnett? Burnett votes nay without recommendation. Caldier? Caldier votes nay without recommendation. Callan?
Excused.
Callan has been excused. Corey?
Do not pass.
Corey votes nay, do not pass. Excuse me. Corey votes nay, do not pass. Cortez? Cortez votes aye. Dolio? Aye. Dolio votes aye. Dye? Dye votes nay, do not pass. Fitzgibbon?
Aye.
Fitzgibbon votes aye. Keaton?
Eaton votes nay, do not pass.
Eaton votes nay, do not pass. Levitt? Levitt votes aye. Lekanoff? Aye. Lekanoff votes aye. Manjares?
No, do not pass.
Manjares votes nay, do not pass. Marshall?
Do not pass.
Marshall votes nay, do not pass. Peterson? Aye. Peterson votes aye. Paulette? Paulette votes aye. Rude? Rude votes nay, do not pass. Ryu?
Ryu votes aye.
Ryu votes aye. Springer? Springer votes aye. Stonier?
Aye.
Stonier votes aye. Street? Street votes aye. Ty? Ty votes aye. Derringer? Derringer votes aye.
Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 18 ayes, 12 nays, and 1 excused.
By your vote, second substitute House Bill 1834 is reported out of committee with a do pass recommendation. We are now on agenda item number 24, 1912.
Thank you, Chair. I move that House Bill 1912 be reported out of committee with the due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that House Bill 1912 be reported out of committee do pass. There is an amendment.
I move Jones 369.
It's been moved and seconded that the amendment Jones 369 be adopted as standard null and void clause. All members wishing to adopt the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Madam Counsel.
I realized that 1912 came out of the Environmental Committee as a do pass substitute. So it should have been
Substitute?
Substitute, and then with the amendment, it would be second substitute.
Okay, thank you. We'll have a little do-over. Vice Chair Gregerson?
Sure. I move that substitute House Bill 1912 be reported out of committee with the due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that substitute House Bill 1912 be reported out of committee do pass. The amendment has passed.
I move that the adopted amendment be incorporated into second substitute House Bill 1912 and that second substitute House Bill 1912 be reported out of committee with the due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that second substitute House Bill 1912 be reported out of committee do pass. Discussion. Representative Corey.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to first and foremost thank the prime sponsor for this good work in addressing what has been a very complicated issue over the last several years following the passage of the Climate Commitment Act. There was an ag exemption in there that was not well rolled out, to put it nicely, and I think we are all working to try to honor our commitments in the underlying bill. Through the discussions on this bill and with others, it's clear that it's about 75% of the ag community is making this work, and we're trying to address that last 25%. This has been something that has been worked with not only with our side as well as the Democrats on the other side of the aisle, but with the governor's office, Department of Ecology, and others. We're going to be mixed today because while we do realize that where the intent of this bill is moving, there's still a lot of work to be done, and there's some concerns in how it is currently written and how that will impact ag, but we don't want to let perfect be the enemy of the good at this point, so we're going to ask that we move it forward today, but there will be some no's on our side with those underlying concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Corey. Additional discussion. Representative Fitzgibbon?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'm also voting yes, and I agree with much of what I heard Representative Corey say. The exemptions in the Climate Commitment Act for fuels used for agricultural purposes has had a rocky start. And but it has been good to hear, I think, particularly over the course of the discussion around this bill, that that most farmers have figured out how to access the exemption that that the law provides to them. But we know that that's not everybody. And this bill, while I agree it probably needs more work to make sure that it works for the entire fuel supply chain, I think that I look forward very much to getting this issue resolved once and for all, and I think moving the bill out today is a step in the right direction.
Thank you, Representative Fitzgibbon. Are there any other comments? Mr. Glatz, we're going to try, we'll just do a roll call.
Ormsby?
Ormsby, aye.
Ormsby votes aye. Gregerson?
Aye.
Gregerson votes aye. Macri?
Aye.
Macri votes aye. Couture?
Without recommendation.
Couture votes nay without recommendation. Connors? Connors votes nay without recommendation. Penner? Penner votes aye. Schmick?
No, without recommendation.
Schmick votes nay without recommendation. Berg? Aye. Berg votes aye. Berquist?
Representative Berquist votes aye.
Berquist votes aye. Burnett? Burnett votes aye. Caldier? Aye. Caldier votes aye. Callan?
Excused.
Callan has been excused. Corey?
Aye.
Corey votes aye. Cortez? Cortez votes aye. Dolio? Dolio votes aye. Dye? Dye votes nay without recommendation. Fitzgibbon?
Aye.
Fitzgibbon votes aye. Keaton?
Keaton votes aye.
Keaton votes aye. Levitt? Levitt votes aye. Lekanoff? Aye. Lekanoff votes aye. Manjares?
Aye.
Manjares votes aye. Marshall?
Aye.
Marshall votes aye. Peterson?
Aye.
Peterson votes aye. Paulette?
Aye.
Excuse me, can you repeat that?
Alette, aye.
Paulette votes aye. Rude? Aye. Rude votes aye. Ryu?
Ryu votes aye.
Ryu votes aye. Springer? Aye. Springer votes aye. Stonier?
Aye.
Stonier votes aye. Street? Street votes aye. Ty? Ty votes aye. Theringer? Theringer votes aye.
Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 26 ayes, 4 nays, and 1 excused.
By your vote, second substitute House Bill 1912 is reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation. We're on to 1960.
Thank you, Chair. I move that substitute House Bill 1960 be reported out of, I move the proposed second substitute House Bill 1960, also H-1766.1, be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that second substitute House Bill 1960, H-1766.1, be reported out of committee due pass. There is an amendment.
I move Cobble 025.
It's been moved and seconded that the amendment Cobble 025 be adopted, standard null and void clause. All members wishing to adopt the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Representative Gregerson.
Thank you. I move that the adopted amendment be incorporated into second substitute House Bill 1960, and that second substitute House Bill 1960 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that second substitute House Bill 1960 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation. Discussion. Representative Berg.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I'm urging a yes vote on this bill. It is really, really good tax policy. We know that renewables are important to communities. They're important to our state. And when they come into communities, currently they are being taxed at the personal property tax exemption rate. This moves it into an excise tax. And what that does for the communities in which these are located is give these communities local predictability of funding for their local government. I just want communities to continue to see economic success and benefits from these renewable projects, and this bill will do just that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Berg. Additional discussion. Representative Dye.
Thank you, Chair Ormsby. We will have a mixed vote on our side today. The sub itself has local controlled tax on wind and solar with the sub, and that's a plus. And we appreciate the work that went to make this an excise tax that has local control on it. That's very important to our communities, because every community wants to develop in their own way and have their own needs. And so we're grateful for this change. But this bill also has a state tax that locals can only access the revenues from if they give up local land use choices, and that's a negative that still needs work. There's more to say, but as we approach, we really do appreciate that WASAC and Representative Rammel have been listening to us and trying to work in a bipartisan manner. And so today, I thank the work that's been done. It's a work in progress, and we'll continue working towards the goal of having a good bill at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Dye. Mr. Glatz, will you please call the roll?
Ormsby.
Ormsby, aye.
Ormsby votes aye. Gregerson.
Aye.
Gregerson votes aye. Macri.
Aye.
Macri votes aye. Couture.
Without recommendation.
Couture votes nay without recommendation. Connors.
Without recommendation.
Connors votes nay without recommendation. Penner. Penner votes aye. Schmick.
No, do not pass.
Schmick votes nay, do not pass. Berg.
Aye.
Berg votes aye. Berquist.
Representative Berquist votes aye.
Berquist votes aye. Burnett. Burnett votes nay without recommendation. Caldier. Caldier votes nay without recommendation. Callan.
Excused.
Callan has been excused. Corey.
Without recommendation.
Corey votes nay without recommendation. Cortez. Cortez votes aye. Dolio. Aye. Dolio votes aye. Dye. Dye votes nay, do not pass. Fitzgibbon.
Aye.
Fitzgibbon votes aye. Keaton.
Keaton votes nay without recommendation.
Keaton votes nay without recommendation. Levitt. Levitt votes aye. Lekanoff. Lekanoff votes aye. Manjares.
No, without recommendation.
Manjares votes nay without recommendation. Marshall.
Without recommendation.
Marshall votes nay without recommendation. Peterson. Peterson votes aye. Paulette.
Aye.
Paulette votes aye. Rude. Rude votes aye. Ryu.
Ryu votes aye.
Ryu votes aye. Springer. Excuse me, can you repeat that?
Aye.
Springer votes aye. Stonier.
Aye.
Stonier votes aye. Street. Street votes aye. Ty.
Can make out that right.
Ty votes aye. Derringer. Derringer votes aye.
Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 20 ayes, 10 nays, and 1 excused.
By your vote, second substitute House Bill 1960 is reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation. 1969.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1969 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It has been moved and seconded that House Bill 1969 be reported out of committee due pass. There are amendments. Representative Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to withdraw Amendment 225.
The Amendment 225 is withdrawn. Representative Burnett.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. I appreciate this opportunity to move this bill forward. I do believe this is a great bill.
Any other amendments, Representative Burnett? Do you have any other amendments to offer, Representative Burnett?
No,
Whaling 224?
Am I missing something? Hold on a second. Let me pull up the bill.
Brian, you want to move Amendment 224? Yeah.
Mr. Chair, move 224.
It's been moved and seconded that the amendment Whaling 224 be adopted. Representative Burnett?
Okay.
Like a minute to check that out?
I can speak to it if you wish.
So, yeah, go ahead and sign that. I missed that part of that.
That's fine. Representative Ryu?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a good amendment. I ask you to vote for it. Unfortunately, we can't afford to include the Department of Natural Resources at this time, and so we are taking out the natural resources for suppression funding of wildfires. Good amendment. Please vote aye.
Thank you. Do you have any comments, Representative Burnett?
Thank you to my good neighbor here that helped me out.
Are there any other comments? Will all members wishing to adopt the amendment Whaling 224 please indicate by saying aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. There is one final amendment.
I move Van Horn 180.
It's been moved and seconded that Van Horn 180 be adopted as standard null and void clause. All members wishing to adopt the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Vice Chair Gregerson.
Thank you. I move that the adopted amendments be incorporated into Substitute House Bill 1969 and that Substitute House Bill 1969 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that Substitute House Bill 1969 be reported out of committee due pass. Discussion. Representative Burnett.
Thank you again for a second time, Mr. Chair. Yeah, this is a good bill, and I really want to thank everybody across the aisle and on this side of the aisle that has worked on this to move it. It's been a great learning experience for myself as a freshman to see how the moving components of something, even when you think things are lining up right, they don't always bring to you what you have planned. But yet people have stepped up and encouraged and brought ideas. And I just want to say thank you to everybody involved. You know who you are. This is a good bill. This is something that's going to help save lives into the future. And not just for those people that the mission of these search and rescues and these helicopters and these aviation programs are doing, but specifically to also the people that are running those programs and the training and the services and the equipment. This is going to help enhance these programs. So I want to say thank you and then encourage a yes vote to this to move this forward.
Thank you, Representative Burnett. Additional discussion, Representative Ryu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So right now, only 4 counties have aviation support: Chelan, King, Snohomish, and Spokane counties. And I believe this bill is a fairness bill because they provide support to the rest of the state. And besides the search and rescue, they also provide aviation support in public safety situations. And so this will be helpful, especially when we have the World Cup here and we'll have a lot more people in the state. And so please vote yes.
Thank you, Representative Ryu. Are there any additional comments? Mr. Glatz, we'll try an oral roll call. Will all members wishing to report House Bill 1969 from committee with a due pass recommendation, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. With Representative Callan excused. Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 30 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 excused.
By your vote, substitute House Bill 1969 is reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation. The last bill on today's executive session agenda is 2015.
Thank you. I move that House Bill 2015 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that House Bill 2015 be reported out of committee due pass. There are amendments. Representative Berg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment H1765.1.
It has been moved and seconded that the amendment 1765.1 be adopted. Discussion. Representative Berg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm asking for a yes vote on this amendment. It is simply a clarifying amendment that says whatever jurisdictions, agency is eligible for this grant must be located in the jurisdiction that authorizes the sales and use tax. It also makes a correction to the date. Asking for a yes vote.
Thank you, Representative Berg. Additional discussion. Representative Penner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We disagree that the amendment's necessary.
Are there any other comments? All those wishing to adopt the amendment H1765.1, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, no.
No.
The ayes appear to have it. The amendment is adopted. There is one more amendment.
I move Jeffrey 018.
It's been moved and seconded that the amendment Jeffrey 018 be adopted. Standard null and void clause. All members wishing to adopt the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Representative Gregerson.
Thank you. I move that substitute House Bill 2015 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that substitute House Bill 2015 be reported out of committee due pass.
And Mr. Chair, if I may clarify that that substitute incorporates the adopted amendments.
Oh,
Sorry.
Yes, we'll try that motion over again.
Try
Thank
again.
you, Madam Counsel.
I move that substitute House Bill I move that the adopted amendments be incorporated into substitute House Bill 2015 and that substitute House Bill 2015 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that substitute House Bill 2015 be reported out of committee due pass. Discussion. Representative Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Like you, I also hear a lot about public safety in my community, and I'll readily acknowledge that police are definitely part of our public safety system. I also hear from our police officers that they have too much to do, and so I'm appreciative of this bill for a couple of reasons. First, because it incentivizes and mandates that police forces who accept this money will accept and implement best practices so that they can increase trust with the community. The bill also views public safety as more than just police officers, and while this bill is moving very quickly, the prime sponsors have done some great job stakeholdering with impacted communities, and so I expect to see additions made to it around using this money for behavioral health and co-responders so that we can take some of the work off of our police force and have a public health and public safety response that are more than people with guns showing up to situations, finding ways to reduce interactions with our law enforcement community when possible, and also achieving better outcomes for folks who are involved in the legal system. So, for example, placing youth in community situations instead of in jail when that is possible, because we know that when they are in community, they have a better chance of rehabilitation and lower chances of recidivism, and that is great for public safety. So I am excited to see this bill move forwards and the changes that we may see coming on the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Street. Additional discussion, Representative Penner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Urging a no vote on this bill, not because I disagree with the concepts that were just spoken in the floor statement, but because I think the bill structurally doesn't address public safety concerns that we have in our 281 cities and 39 counties across Washington state. Most jurisdictions, Mr. Chair, as a matter of business, we know spend 60 to 70% of their general fund right now on public safety. Many of those jurisdictions already levy a sales tax for the purpose of public safety. And by public safety, I don't mean just officers on the street. I do mean co-responders. I do mean all the staff that goes into the public safety, even the facilities. But that's the true nature of the amount of money that we spend jurisdiction by jurisdiction on this item right now, including sales taxes, but also including utility taxes that some jurisdictions levy for this, independent levies that they levy, part of your property taxes. There is no shortage of places where local governments are trying to collect funds to pay for public safety. They would be collecting it in boots if they were allowed. Maybe that's something we should be considering, as well as allowing our police departments to go out and beg for money in boots. But this bill does not solve the problems of these communities. It seems to hold it hostage, saying, well, you can't be part of this grant program to receive extra monies for public safety unless you levy yet another tax to take to pay for this item. I want to bring this down to ground level, just an example of an average jurisdiction in Washington state. Most jurisdictions in Washington are less than 5,000 people. Almost all of them are less than 10,000 people. Take the city of Buckley, it's 6,500 people. If they levied a 0.1% sales tax for the purpose of public safety, they're going to get about $75,000 next year. That's not enough to hire an officer. That's not enough to hire a co-responder. It might be enough to do something small programmatically, but it doesn't really move the needle or solve any problems here. What we have is an idea for raising money for public safety, and that's good. But the idea will only add people on the street, in the form of police officers, co-responders, other supporters in the largest communities in Washington state. Most other communities are not going to be able to levy this tax, either because they're already levying a tax and their tax base won't support it, or because even if they did levy the tax, it wouldn't appreciably make a difference. So the bill has good parts in that it seeks to provide more funding for public safety. I think we all agree on that on both sides of the aisle. But structurally, it doesn't move the needle, so I can't support it. Asking a no vote.
Thank you, Representative Penner. Are there any additional comments? Seeing none, Mr. Glass, will you please call the roll?
Ormsby?
Ormsby, aye.
Ormsby votes aye. Gregerson?
Aye.
Gregerson votes aye. Macri?
Aye.
Macri votes aye. Couture?
Not pass.
Couture votes nay, do not pass. Connors? Connors votes nay, do not pass. Penner? Penner votes nay, do not pass. Schmick? Schmick votes nay, do not pass. Berg? Berg votes aye. Brookquist?
Representative Berquist votes aye.
Brookquist votes aye. Burnett? Burnett votes nay, do not pass. Caldier? Caldier votes nay, do not pass. Callan?
Excused.
Callan is excused. Corey? Corey votes nay, do not pass. Cortez? Cortez votes aye. Dolio? Dolio votes aye. Dye? Dye votes nay, do not pass. Fitzgibbon?
Aye.
Fitzgibbon votes aye. Keaton?
Eaton votes nay, do not pass.
Keaton votes nay, do not pass. Levitt? Levitt votes aye. Lekanoff? Lekanoff votes aye. Manjares?
No, do not pass.
Manjares votes nay, do not pass. Marshall?
Do not pass.
Marshall votes nay, do not pass. Peterson? Peterson votes aye. Paulette? Paulette votes aye. Rude? Rude votes nay, do not pass. Ryu?
Ryu votes aye.
Ryu votes aye. Springer? Springer votes aye. Stonier? Stonier votes aye. Street? Street votes aye. Ty? Ty votes aye. Theringer? Theringer votes aye.
Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Glatz, will you please announce the tally?
Mr. Chair, there are 18 ayes, 12 nays, and 1 excused.
By your vote, substitute House Bill 2015 is reported out of committee with a do pass recommendation. That is the last bill on our executive session list as we are on the last day of fiscal committee cutoff. Representative Couture has asked for a minute of appreciation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd first like to thank you and our vice chairs for helping keep the train on the rails here, and all of the committee for all of the bills and work we put in, over the last week here. Vigorous, passionate debate, espousing ideas that come directly from our constituents in our districts, but frankly, I might even be stealing this line from you, Mr. Chair, but we're just kind of the show ponies. The true workhorses are our staff, our nonpartisan staff of Office of Program Research, and our partisan staff as well, who help us staff the committee and help us get through all of these pieces of legislation. And, behind the scenes, there's just an incredible amount of bill drafting and amendments, and to put this kind of volume of work into the committee. And so on behalf of me and my caucus, I would like to thank Office of Program Research and all of our partisan staff, both parties, and also all the members of the committee. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ranking Member Couture. And I'd like to add, again, my appreciation to be extended to our committee staff leadership, as well as all the analysts and yours, and all of the policy and legal analysts throughout the entire second floor of the Office of Program Research, who have worked with the Appropriations Caucus staff to put together and get prepared for this week. In the interest of not keeping you any longer after many long days, I would like to conclude, but just want to deeply show our appreciation and to Devin Nichols and Eric Kiffey, House Democratic Caucus staff, to Anton and Stephanie and Dana and
Ryan and Stephanie and all of them at this point.
Yeah,
We've had some sicknesses
that had to roll in to support our Republican colleagues. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you very much. Be in Being no further business before the committee, we are adjourned.
Yay.